Good Sunday morning, Steeler Nation. John Phillips here live at the North Park Lounge, Richland and the Hilltop Event Center. We are Steel City Sunday, Week 8 for the Steelers, Week 9 of the NFL. We hope you're having a good start to your Sunday morning. Steelers and Colts from Acrisure Stadium. We're going to break it down for you over the next 3 hours. Monster program for you. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am to talk about this game over the next 3 hours with a ton of guests. We've got our usual lineup for you. Paul Zeiss just seconds away, Post-Gazette columnist, longtime writer here in Pittsburgh, radio personality, man about town, if you will. We'll have him in just a few seconds. I want to break down the lineup for you this morning, and then we will get to the meat and potatoes of the show today. I talked about that. Of course, Paul Zeiss joining us at 10:30 this morning. Todd Haley, of course, joins us every week. We're so fortunate to have a former NFL head coach and offensive coordinator joining us every week on the pregame show. Haley's Huddle at 10:30 this morning. Then at 10:45, we'll talk with Bill Akins, our executive producer, solid guy. We talk to him every single week about what Yins think. We'll talk about that in Bill's breakdown later today as well. Then in the 11 o'clock hour, Behind Enemy Lines, we've got Derek Larger, a podcaster. He does a show called Behind the Juice. It's a Colts podcast, can be found on X and YouTube. We'll discuss the 7-1 Colts as they storm into Acrisure today with him. At 11:15, our NFL insider, Zig Fracassi from SiriusXM's NFL Radio, comes on board. We'll talk about the Ravens. We'll talk about the Bengals that are playing today. Cleveland is off this week. At 11:30, Steeler Nation Spotlight with Anthony Halkeas II, feature writer, lead writer, covering the Steelers for SteelerNation.com. He'll join us at 11:30. Our Consigs Pick segment. I'm looking forward to having this guy on. He's a great follow on X. He calls himself the Degenerate. My kind of guy, the DGen Weekly on X. He will join us for Consigs Picks. He is a gambler. He has a YouTube channel. He talks betting. We'll talk with him at 11:45. At noon, straight up, we got Mike Ostie and Mic'd Up. Mike, of course, the managing editor of West Virginia Sports Now, part of the Pittsburgh Sports Now family of websites, national writer for Yardbarker, can be heard on SiriusXM. And then at 12:15 p.m., Steel City Fan Reaction. We'll talk with Jerry DePaula as we do. Bill's breakdown at 12:30, and then we'll wrap the show up near kickoff around 12:45, 12:50 p.m. Without further ado, let's bring Paul Zeiss in this morning, live from the palatial digs of the Post-Gazette on the North Shore. Good morning, Mr. Zeiss. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm doing well. How are you doing, John?
I think we're in good shape. We're at the midway point of the season, just about midway point of the season. Overall, I'm very pleased with how the show has gone, and I wouldn't say I'm pleased with the Steelers, although they're probably where they're at, where I think a lot of people would think. Let's talk about this team so far. They're 7 games in. Are they where you thought they would be after 7 games, Paul?
I mean, if you want to take a look at their record only, I guess, that's probably about where we thought they would be, 4-3, 5-2, somewhere right around there. Looking back, you figured there was a couple of games they would drop. But the route that they've taken has been kind of different than probably we all thought. And I think the other thing is the way that they got here in terms of the fact that their defense is very bad, or has been very bad. That probably is something that we did not anticipate. I think most people thought, and I thought, this defense would be pretty good once all the parts got put together and once they sort of figured out how to play together. But it seems like they haven't gotten better. They've gotten worse. So I'm not sure, honestly, what to make of this team right now. I know everybody has a definitive idea of what they are and who they are. I don't even know if the Steelers know what they are and who they are at this point.
Yeah, let's talk about the defense. No Jabril Peppers today. I think Chuck Clark is out as well. The defense has been banged up at times. Alex Highsmith was out for a few games. Nick Herbig, we talked about him last week. He only saw 29 snaps the week prior to the Green Bay game. Now in the last week, he only played 24 snaps. You and I have discussed this. Obviously, his play against the run is what's suspect and keeps him off the field. Now that they've suffered these 2 losses, the big one in Cincinnati on the Thursday night and then last Sunday night against the Packers, can they continue to afford to limit him? And or do they need to just try to get him on the field as a playmaker and see if he can provide them something?
Well, I mean, I think he's obviously a guy that they have to figure out how to use. Now, the problem they have with him, again, against the run, I don't know that, honestly, if that's really enough in my mind to keep him off the field as much as they do, because he's a playmaker when he's out there. I mean, he's somebody who actually makes things happen. So to me, I would have to see real hard evidence that he's so bad against the run that, that he's the reason why teams are able to run against the Steelers. One of the things that Mike Tomlin likes to do, and it for better or worse, he likes to play his guys. Highsmith is obviously one of his guys, and Watt clearly is one of his guys. But I mean, he likes to play his guys a lot. He has a comfort zone with them. He believes that he believes that Highsmith gives them more versatility, and you can play him on more downs. And Herbig is a guy you kind of only be able to use on passing obvious situations. I don't know. I think that if you have a guy who seems to show up on tape and seems to make plays whenever he's in there, you find ways to get him in there.
I don't disagree. And you're right about Tomlin labeling his guys as being the ones that he wants out there. But when things are broke, you try to fix them. I want to talk about your colleague, Jerry Dulac. Thursday, I guess he was holding some sort of chat on the PG site like he normally does, and you do shows and you hold chats. Ray Fittipaldo, all you guys do a lot of work over there to engage with the the readership and the fans. Thursday, somebody posed the question to him about ownership and how they feel, and I guess he basically said that, according to Dulac, there's frustration from Art II. This has been building, obviously, for some time now. What do you read into that? Is that something that could further escalate if this team loses today, loses badly, and slips to 4-4?
Well, I mean, I think that, it will all depend on what the season looks like. I mean, I honestly believe if this is another 9-8 season, or, season where they don't win a playoff game, or, God forbid, don't even make the playoffs, I could easily see this becoming an Eagles, Andy Reid kind of situation where both sides sit down and decide, or even Penguins, Mike Sullivan situation where both sides sit down and decide, maybe it's time that we just sort of move on and part ways in an amicable way. But
right.
I don't know that it would reach a level where they would fire Mike Tomlin, because that's just not their MO. That's just not how they do things. It's not really, what they want to do. I think they pride themselves on the fact that, well, we've only had 3 coaches in, 50 years or 70 years or whatever it's been. But to me, I look at it and I say, I think for the first time, probably, John, I could see a scenario where Mike Tomlin and the Steelers part ways at the end of this season. If, things don't go well. Now, if they go, they rebound and they win 10 games or 11 games and win a playoff game and all that good stuff, and especially if it looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to come back for another year, I could easily see, we just stay the course and move forward. But I feel like, you read what Jerry wrote, talk to different people, seeing just being around in the tea leaves and all that other good stuff. I don't think that Mike Tomlin's departure is imminent by any stretch. But for the first time, probably, since he's been here, I could actually see a scenario at the end of the season where, him and the Steelers part ways.
I don't disagree with you. I believe Bill Akins wants to jump in here and ask a question. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. Yeah, Paul, I agree. I don't think, I don't think that the Steelers are going to fire Mike Tomlin, and for one reason, because he's signed through 2027. They're not going to pay him to not work, in my opinion. But if he would agree to part ways with the Steelers, and it would be, like you said, an amicable agreement, I could see that happening for sure. What do you think about that? I don't think they're not going to fire him, right? I mean, they're not going to pay him to not work, right?
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that, 1 year on a contract or 2 years on a contract. I don't think that's going to be the difference between yes and no. I think, honestly, it's going to become a feeling of whether or not he's run his course here. That's going to be what's really going to be discussed. And I think if they go 9-8 again and lose in the playoffs again and whatever, I mean, I feel like, Art Rooney and company will sit down and really evaluate, hey, is it time to maybe move forward? I mean, I know it took the Penguins 2 extra years to come to that conclusion of Mike Sullivan, but they did. And I think that's really where it's going to be at and what's going to happen in my mind. I think we have to let the season play out before anybody really makes any definitive, discussion points about Mike Tomlin's future.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And let's just explore that because he is under contract through 2027. Okay, so he's back for 2 more seasons after this year. Let's say they don't make the playoffs. Let's say it's a disaster. Let's say they even go 8-9. It's a losing season. Why not explore with a guy under contract and clearly could have a job a day or two after he would say depart Pittsburgh? I don't think there's any question. Let's assume he wants to continue to keep coaching and that the Steelers are able to come to some sort of terms with him. Why would you not try to work out a trade deal where you're going to get some compensation for him? You're heading into a draft where it's going to be here in town, right? There's all this buzz about future quarterback, what can they do, things of this nature. Is that something that you think they would probably explore? Because I think that would be something that should be part of the negotiations if it gets to that point.
Well, I mean, anything is possible, right? I traded John Gruden, and, it's happened before where coaches have gotten traded. I would assume, John, given the way the Steelers do business, everything would be on the table. If they were going to go there and make that kind of a move, everything would be on the table in terms of, what's the best way to get out of this or get out from underneath this. But you know what? It might just be, they have to eat the contract. And if they do, they do. I mean, I think that's not going to be a determining factor one way or another. Clearly, it'd be great if they could figure out a trade. And there'd be teams that'd be willing to trade for him. But I think we're very, very premature here on all of this stuff.
I
because
agree.
There's still a lot of football to be played. I mean, if they go out and they win today, all of a sudden the entire narrative about this team changes.
So, right.
To me, it's like one of the things that I've always, sort of prided myself on is I don't get on the roller coaster. I don't get on the bandwagon. I don't get on the roller coaster up, down, because the seasons are long. And, you just never know how they're going to turn out. Sometimes they turn out much better than you think. Sometimes they turn out much worse than you think. I mean, I just think that we have to just sort of see what plays out. I mean, there'll be a point probably in the season where we'll have a really good idea what the Steelers are and where they're at. But again, if they go out and win today, everything we've talked about for the last week goes out the window.
Yeah.
So you've got to just sort of stay in the here and now with the big picture stuff because, you have no idea, how it's going to turn out. And I'll give you a great example. A week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, everyone was ready to fire John Harbaugh. Now people are picking him to win the AFC North. You win a couple of games and, the next thing you know, you win a couple of games and everything changes. So you've got to just sort of see how it plays out. I mean, like I said, the only limb I would go out, and I don't even know if it's a limb, is that for the first time, I could see a scenario where, the Steelers and Mike Tomlin part ways.
This is Steel City Sunday. We are covering Steelers and Colts live from the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. We got Paul Zeiss of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette with us. Right now, portions of this show brought to us by Arch Masonry and Restoration. They are a construction company that specializes in masonry, concrete work, restoration work. They are hiring here in Pittsburgh. We're heading into winter. They're still busy. They are looking for professional craftsmen with experience in brick and block work, concrete finishers, and labor help. If you don't have experience, that's okay. You can learn on the job. They have advancement programs and classes that can jumpstart your career in the building trades. Call 412-564-5733 or visit archmasonryinc.com. to learn more. Let's talk about this. We got a little question here, I believe, coming in via YouTube. Of course, we are found on all the socials at Steel City Sunday. Paul, let's get into Jonathan Taylor and the Colts. 270 points, highest scoring team in the league, averaging just under 34 points a game. Taylor's having a great season. I mean, 850 yards rushing, 12 rushing touchdowns. Danny Dimes, I mean, he leaves New York to go into Indianapolis, probably going to be comeback player of the year if he keeps it up. Then you've got Shane Steichen, their head coach, 7-1, tops in the league. I mean, they really come in loaded for Bear today. What are you expecting from them? Do you expect them to just run early on and test that rush defense?
I think that they one of the things that they have been really good at, and Shane Steichen, I think, is one of these guys. I think sometimes we label guys, offensive geniuses or gurus or whatever, probably prematurely. But I think one of the things that we've seen from him is he's a really good play caller, and he's really good at mixing it up, and he's really good at keeping defenses, off balance. So, obviously, if you read anything from Indianapolis and you hear anything from Indianapolis, they've talked a lot about how their offensive line has really become a team strength, that their offensive line has really been out there just sort of mauling everybody. And if you've got a running back like Jonathan Taylor, you're in the elements. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's too bad out here, but, it's not indoor controlled like they've been, where they play their home games, right? I mean, if you're in the elements a little bit, it could rain a little bit here today and whatever, wind and everything else. Boy, if you can run the ball, I think one of the things about it is you can do a couple of things. One, shorten the game a little bit. Two, sort of just dominate the game. And three, you can keep the other offense off the field. So I don't know if they're going to go, full out, just run, but if Jonathan Taylor is working, he's the kind of player you want to have the ball in his hands. So I don't know why they wouldn't go ahead and do the best they could do to feed him early and see what happens. But again, the Colts have thrived on the fact that they are really good at keeping defenses off balance and keeping them guessing. And I think one of the things I really like is the tight end that they have is the young kid, Tyler Warren, is a beast. The Steelers have had hard times. At times they've struggled to cover tight ends. I think that's a matchup to watch as well, is what do they do to get Tyler Warren free and open? But if they are giving the Steelers a heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor for most of the game, that probably is not a good sign for the Steelers.
Yeah, probably not. Warren, by the way, 492 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns so far this year. Alex Correa checking in via our YouTube channel saying most coaches would get fired if what's going to happen today that the Colts are about to lay on the Steelers. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in terms of that. Look, and this was the funny thing about last week, and that's why I ask you, the Packers came in last week. I thought they were going to run the ball quite a bit, to be quite honest with you. I thought that they would use Jones quite a bit, and they didn't. But, of course, Jordan Love throws for 350, 360, and 20 straight completions in a row. They really torched that secondary last week. So maybe, like you said, switching things up is part of the plan. John, is it Ed Borg from YouTube says if they win, he's talking about the Steelers, it's how they win that matters. There are playoff field wins and just got lucky wins. A lucky win won't earn my confidence. There is a 15-year history here. He's talking about Mike Tomlin. Well, we'll see. A win is a win in this league, and if they were to beat the 7-1 Colts, I don't care how they do it, that's still something pretty good, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think what he's talking about is if you watch the New England game, for instance. I don't know if at the end of that game you really felt better about the Steelers than you did before the game, but they won. I mean, winning is winning. That's all that matters. And I think this is the kind of game where, honestly, I don't know that style points really matter that much. I mean, you're playing against a team who's rolling through the league, who's, scoring a ton of points. Their offense is, I think, number one in total offense, number one in scoring offense. They are a team that looks like they are really starting to find their stride. They're maybe the best team in the AFC right now. And so, to me, if you win, it's obviously a very good win for you. And then also down the road, I mean, it looks like the Colts are going to win their division, but who knows? Anything can happen. Maybe the Texans get hot and, the Colts end up as a wild card. Well, if you beat them, guess what? You have a tiebreaker that you might need down the road. It's an AFC game, so winning is all that matters this game. If you ask me, walking out of the stadium with one more point than the Colts is the only thing I'm going to care about.
That's exactly right. Yeah, doesn't matter how you do it, you get it done, especially against a team that really is a controversial penalty call away from being 8-0. Right, the Broncos went into Indianapolis and there was some sort of penalty on that long field goal that they missed. It got called, gave them another chance for a slightly shorter field goal that they made and ended up winning that game on a walk-off. So they could easily be 8-0 right now, and the only undefeated team in the league. They are certainly playing at a high level. By the way, Jacksonville in second place in the AFC South at 4-3, but who knows what will actually happen there. A couple more minutes with Paul Zeiss, who's down at the Post-Gazette office. He'll be heading over to the game a little bit later on this morning. Patrick Bernard checking in via Facebook. He misses Shane Steichen, brilliant play caller, the backbone of the Eagles winning a Super Bowl last year. He has certainly revolutionized or at least changed things in Indianapolis offensively, as the Colts have been tops in most of the statistical categories that are offensively, at least in the NFL this year. So let's talk about how the Steelers can exploit a weakness in the Colts defense, which is their pass defense. Paul, they're 29th in the league against the pass. They give up over 250 yards a game. Aaron Rodgers quietly has put together a very strong season. I mean, and is probably their MVP at this point at 41, and he's a month away from turning 42. 30-plus passes today to get the win. I mean, I don't see them running the ball effectively against that run defense. Their run defense is pretty good. They give up like 93 yards a game. They're top 10 in rushing defense. If they're going to win today, it's got to be Aaron Rodgers getting rid of the football, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the last 2 weeks, they were so far ahead in both of those games the last 2 weeks that I'm assuming the other teams had to pass, and sometimes those numbers can be a little skewed when you have a team that's blowing a lot of teams out. I think, it's clear that their focus is stopping the run and, basically keeping the plays in front of them. Do I think that Aaron Rodgers airing it out 30 times is the best plan for the Steelers? Probably not, but I think part of it is that would suggest that they're not able to run the ball. I mean, I still think that if they can run the ball some and have success and move the chains running the ball, it takes a little of the pressure off the passing game. But, John, this could be one of those games where your best chance of winning is just say we're going to outscore them. We're absolutely going to outscore them. And we're just going to, we're going to do whatever it takes on offense to finish drives and score touchdowns. And you know what? If we have to win a shootout, because here's the thing, outside of maybe one or two of those years with the Killer Bees, and I don't even know that it was this dramatic, Mike Tomlin is not a guy that wants to win with offense. It's just not his DNA, not his MO. Wants to control offense, wants to control the clock, wants to, win with defense and the kicking game. I mean, he's, again, that old Dave Wannstedt, every drive that ends in a kick is a good one. That's his, philosophy about offense. But you have to, at times in the NFL today, right? College football today, you know what I mean? You have to be willing to say, we're probably not going to stop this team, so we're just going to go out and outscore them.
Yeah, look, it's so funny you say that, because last week when they were up by 9 at the half, they had run the ball 15 times in the first half. They only ran the ball 3 times in the second half.
Right.
So, which was, like confusing for me, because they had established some sort of running game in the first half. They had a 9-point lead, and so he goes away from that. The other thing I'll say to you to back up what you're saying, do you remember when they would get and we've got Todd Haley will be joining us here in a few minutes. I'm pretty sure he was a coordinator at the time. They would get the first touchdown of the game, Paul, and do you remember they would go for two? They would go for two. If they got up early, but that has disappeared. Like you said, it's just kind of gone away, and maybe that is part in fact with the coordinators. And again, I'll ask Todd this here in a few minutes. I'll let you go here in a second after you answer this. Where do you think that change of philosophy has happened in the last few years? Do you just think it's because of the personnel? Is it the coordinators? Is it a combination of those?
Well, no, I think what happened was, if you remember, they went for two a couple of times and they didn't get it, and then they had to chase a point for one of the games. Honestly, there was literally a game where they didn't get it and they only had 6. Then they scored again, and then they didn't get it again. I'm pretty sure that, and so they had to go for 2 again, and they didn't get it. And it just, I really believe that was only like a 2 or 3 game thing. It honestly was, and that seemed like something that Ben talked him into. And at the end of it, he was kind of like, "No, we're not doing this anymore." If you look here's the thing, John. It is a real most telling thing ever. Okay, and that is that that Mike Tomlin is the least likely coach in the NFL to go for it on 4th down.
Yep, I saw that.
Least. Now, there's this is one of those stats where I look at it and say, well, I get it. I get what they're trying to say. But part of it, too, is, okay, how many guys, if they're inside, if they're at the 40, right, even like the 41, 42-yard line and in, how many guys can look down the sideline at their kicker and say, that's 3 short points? That's part of it.
Right.
Is that he knows Boswell is good for 3 points, right? Instead of going for it, let's kick and get 3 points. Period. Just gets to me, it's one of those things that I think that he's a very – I say this all the time, John, and I'll leave this. All the national guys, all of the media guys that are not around this team, and they see it from afar, and they get Mike Tomlin on their shows, and he's cool and laid back in his rocking chair or whatever, and he wears the cross, and he's like this hip guy that seems like he's in touch with his players and all that stuff. Mike Tomlin is Chuck Noll, basically, when it comes to his coaching philosophy. Like, he's as antiquated as they get. And everything he does, every decision he makes, all of that, it's just that old school mindset, you know what I mean? Where we win with the running game, we win with defense, we kick the ball when we're supposed to kick the ball. And I don't know that in this NFL, that still works. I think you have to be a little bit more aggressive in what you do.
I don't disagree. Paul Zeiss, columnist, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you joining us every week.
I was just getting warmed up here. I thought I'm having fun now. Let's do it again.
That's fine. That's fine. That sounds good. Paul, thank you, buddy. I play Sunday Night Football next Sunday, so we got a big one. Well, maybe we'll get you up here for it, okay?
Wait. Can I give a cheap, shameless plug? If you're during the game, I do a live chat with all Steeler fans. Come to the Post-Gazette website, jump on my chat, ask questions. We interact. We have fun. When the game goes off the hinges, a couple weeks ago when it was really bad, we started talking about the greatest rock bands and things of the such. We have all kinds of fun. So if you're watching the Steeler game, log on to the Post-Gazette. Come on, chat with me.
Postgazette.com/sports, I would think, right?
Yeah, just go to, you'll see the chat. I put it on my Twitter too. So
okay, excellent. All right, Paul Zeiss, thank you very much, sir.
All right, we'll see you, man.
All right, Paul Zeiss live from the North Shore. Steel City Sunday rolling on. We are live at the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. Good Sunday afternoon, Steeler Nation. John Phillips here with Bill Akins, and we are about to bring in Todd Haley, a Yinzer at heart, former head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs and an offensive coordinator with so many teams I can't even list them at this point in time. Good morning, Mr. Haley. How are you?
Morning, John. How you doing? Really looking forward to this game. I heard some of what the great Paul Zeiss was saying. I agreed with some of it, disagreed with a little bit of it, but he knows his stuff. So let's get into it. I know you got some questions listening in on that.
Yeah, no, seriously, let's talk about what you disagree with. Let's talk about philosophy, okay? So obviously you coached under Mike Tomlin, and again, you've been in charge of an NFL team. You've been in charge of various offenses through your career. Where do you think this change in philosophy was? Because you were a coordinator under him, and it seemed like you guys were more aggressive at that point in time, right? I mean, going for two. And I distinctly remember watching these games in 2016, 2017, whatever it was, and you would score the first touchdown of the game, and then they're going for two. I'm like, I like this. Whether you got it or not, I thought, okay, like this is different, right? Like it was aggressive, but that has changed. Let's talk about, from your perspective, what you're seeing in terms of that change and whether you like that or not.
Well, one of the things I disagreed with, we did it for more than 1 or 2 games. I mean,
Right.
that was a staple, and it was something that we practiced all the time. You guys all know that 7 shots to start every practice and training camp, all those things. There was a calculated mindset of how we were going to try to play. Now, that was driven by, if you remember, when I got there, the defense was in great turnover. I mean, the Brett Kiesels, the Troy Polamalos, the Ike Taylors. Those guys were either at the end or retiring. So I think, there's always ebb and flow, within every game, within every season, but within every team. And, at that point, we all talked about it, and Mike obviously leading the conversation, that our offense was our strength, and the defense was going to need some help. So I talked about this on the air in Sirius a couple times. Every Friday, Mike T would come in to my office. I knew when he walked in that I had to ask the next question, and it was, how many points do we need? Because he had game planned all week. He had practiced. He knows the other offense very well. And some weeks it would be 20. Some weeks it'd be 30 plus, and some weeks somewhere in between. So I said, I wonder what – I'm sure those conversations still go on with Arthur Smith, and I wonder – as they went into this game against this team, what was that number? And my guess is probably 30 plus. But that's the way, Mike and I think good coaches go into every game is, where are our strengths, where are our weaknesses, where are we light, where are we heavy? How do we have to play to win this game? We're not just running plays. It's very thoughtful. And now you go to last week, Green Bay, I said on here, I expected a bounce back. The first half looked kind of the way I thought it should look and would look. The defense is prideful. They stood up. They played tough. They just kicked too many field goals, not enough touchdowns. If a couple of those could have converted, could have been a completely different thing. But then the second half fell off, tackling a couple 50-50 plays. I thought the lob ball to Kraft and then the lob ball down to Watson, those were game-changing plays. Yeah. So, I think every game's a little different, but, it's all going to depend how Mike manages the game is going to depend on how he feels about the defense, which is the way I think it should go.
See, this is why having somebody like you on this show is so important, because now I've learned something that as a coordinator, you would go into meetings and ask, how many points do we need? Like that never is something that I would have ever thought would be a conversation, right? Like so you're telling me as a coordinator, your head coaches, you'd go to him and say, how many points do we need? That's like news to me. And it's why having a guy like you is important, because I don't think a lot of people would probably think that a number would be discussed. It's just, we got to go out, perform, we've got to tackle, we've got to put points on the board, but you would actually get a number from the coach on where you needed to be point-wise.
Yeah, and did it always work out that way? No, and then the game changes. There's ebb and flow within the game, and then some thought process changes. But, I think it works really well when you have a guy like Mike. Now, he knows offense inside and out, but he really knows defense, and he has a real pulse for where his defense is. So it's a nice mix, a little different than an offensive head coach, and a defensive coordinator, and the defensive coordinator saying, how many points do we have to hold them to? I don't think that happens. It's a unique situation in the places where you have that type of deal. So, I just and then also, like I said, within the game, because you and Paul talked a little bit about, going for it, not going for it. I agree with what Paul said 100%. When you have a kicker like Boswell, I mean, you have great confidence. You in a lot of other situations where guys are like, we're probably too close to punt, but I don't trust our kicker. You can't give away points. You really can't. And I know in this day and age with analytics and all that, I think points matter, especially, the first half of a game. You gotta add up as many as you can, any way you can.
We're talking with Todd Haley. This is Haley's Huddle on Steel City Sunday. Steelers and Colts live from Acrisure Stadium, about 2.25 hours away from kickoff. Let's talk about last week when the Steelers were up 16-7 at the half. They had run the ball 15 times in the first half. Second half, they come out. They only run the ball, end up 3 times in the second half, and lose that game by 10. As a coordinator, Art Smith coming out, they tried to establish a run and did a decent job of it. Why do you think they kind of went away from that in the second half? Was it at that point, we got to pick up the tempo, we've got to get Aaron going because we want to maintain this lead, because we expect some sort of changes from the Packers? Why get away from the running game so quickly in that second half? They really didn't run the ball until late in that third quarter, and then twice when they were down, and that was it. Yeah,
I can't answer that, but I wasn't happy with it. Now, offensive coordinators are easily swayed. You maybe the first couple handoffs, were a loss, and then all of a sudden you're like, we're going backwards. It takes some guts to continue to call runs. I'll reference the Jets game against the Bengals last week. I mean, they were down how many points, and they kept running to Breece Hall. And they found a way back. That's hard to do. That's a lot easier said than done. Okay. And I used to have a guy up, Randy Fichtner would sit up in the box, and I'd say, Randy, I want to run it, hand it off 25 times this game, some way, some shape or form. And you say, well, why would you force that? But statistically, if we had 25 handoffs, we won the game, period. So you can't force it, obviously. It's got to be efficient. It can't all be 2-yard runs. It's got to start to gain some traction. But, that's the discipline aspect of it. If you get caught up in the game and, Green Bay just scored, we got to respond. It's very easy to get away from how you kind of went into the game mentality-wise to play it to win.
We're talking with Todd Haley here on Steel City Sunday. Steelers and Colts at Acrisure, 1 o'clock kickoff. Let's go and talk about so far Aaron Rodgers has been the MVP of this team, without a doubt. Are you shocked at how well he's played?
No. The shocking thing is, if you told me back, when he signed with the Steelers that he was going to play the way he's played, and a lot of people would be feeling the way they're feeling right now, that would be the shocking part. Because now defense is a funny thing. Between injuries and different things, it takes a little more time to come together sometimes. I think we saw it at the start of that Green Bay game. That's why I think that first half was so important, because we know this team responds. We know they have great pride. They're embarrassed with the tackling and letting a couple of those plays happen in that game in the second half. So I expect another response. Now, the key is you got to do it for the whole game. Now, that's why I brought up that conversation between me and Mike T every Friday, because I want to know what that number was. I'm guessing 30-plus. Just because the Colts have been so good on offense. But then what happens, John, is I go into the team, the next couple times I talk to the offense, I'm saying, listen, we're an aggressive mindset. Some weeks I'd say we're going to, guys up front, we're going to win with the run because that number was 17 or 20. And I'm like, all right, if we can just pound it out, we're going to have a good chance. So you got to get the guys motivated and most importantly, let them understand the plan. How are we going to play this game? Now, it's Mike T's job for the whole team, but each coordinator has to make it very clear.
That's weird. Okay. So I want to follow up with this here in a second. By the way, John Edborg checking in via our YouTube channel. Hire Haley for OC and let him find the next QB for this team. And by the way, you can hear Todd on Sirius XM's NFL radio on the weekends. How are you enjoying that gig, by the way?
Oh, I love it. It's a lot of fun. I do Friday morning, 7 to 10 with Solly Wilcott, former Steeler, and I do it with Zig and Bruce Murray. Zig on Saturdays, who's coming on here later, and Bruce Murray some during the week. I enjoy it. I love football. I love watching football. I love analyzing football. So
Yeah.
a lot of fun to try to bring a perspective that everybody doesn't.
I'll keep you for a couple more minutes here. We've talked a little bit about Aaron Rodgers. And this is just me looking at statistics and not, doing anything other than thinking, hey, Rodgers has been real solid all season. The Colts' weakness on defense is pass defense. They're 29th against the pass. They give up over 250 yards a game through the air. Are we airing it out today? I mean, we want to try to establish some sort of running game, but would you be shocked if Rodgers throws the ball 30, 35 times today in an effort to try to win this game?
No, I wouldn't at all. He obviously is playing at a pretty high clip. Now it's a lot of short passing, but that's okay. That's kind of, with the lack of some of the run game in some games, short passing game can do that for you. But I probably would, I'm getting excited about these tight ends. They need to find who is that next best guy after DK. And obviously the tight ends aren't going to be the ones taking the top off the defense, but that's really what they need to figure out is who that other guy is, because in the game, you have your stars, and what we always had in those good years when I was there was we had a guy like Darius Hayward-Bay. He understood his role, a very unselfish guy that could run, and he didn't care if he knew he was just being used up, running down the middle. He played his role at such a high level that it really helped AB and Martavis Bryant and Juju and some of those guys function. So, you got to find that one other guy that understands that. And I think that's why with the Chiefs, when Worthy got back, it's not that they were throwing it to him, 15 times a game, but he's running through the defense. You better pay attention. And even if Patrick Mahomes wasn't throwing it, it's opening up other things. So, that role player, that next guy other than the tight ends, I think is really critical.
Quick prediction before I let you go. What do you think happens today, Todd?
Well, I lean the Steelers on my serious show, so I'm sticking with the Steelers. I just think this is their type of game. They tend to play up to the competition when everybody thinks they don't have a shot. I mean, that's been a staple for a long time.
Todd Haley, former head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, offensive coordinator for the Steelers, the Browns, Arizona Cardinals, and Riverview High School. Thank you, sir.
John, first of all, hold on. Mad disrespect that jersey you're wearing, that Super Bowl logo, that number, James Harrison. Come on, man. You can't do that to me.
Listen, I live in the North Allegheny School District and work for the athletic department. I'm not messing with him. His son plays on the team.
I sat next to him in every team meeting that he was part of the team, and he did not let me forget that interception return one time.
Nor should he. You're the best, Todd. Thank you. I can't thank you enough.
All right. I'll see you. Have a good one. Let's go Steelers. Right.
Let's go Steelers. Todd Haley. I'm going to tell you right now, it is a pleasure to be able to speak to him every week. I don't even know how. Well, I know how we got him through Zig, and he's just been gracious. I mean, he's like, yeah, let's do this every week. And, he's just, his insight is invaluable. And if you're watching, hopefully you're enjoying it. We appreciate having a guy like that on this show. We're brand new in this space. 8th show we're doing right now, and to have a guy like Todd who's willing to come on every single week is just fantastic, because he teaches you new things. I never knew that a head coach would say, I need 34 points from my offense. I mean, I'll bring Bill Akins in here. Did you know that? Did you ever think that a head coach would tell his coordinator, I need 32 points, I need 26 points?
I actually remember reading that somewhere that that's kind of what, when Todd was the offensive coordinator, that's what had happened week after week. I actually knew that. Yeah, I remember him. I read that somewhere, or I heard that somewhere. Yeah. So
I mean, in all my years, I said it just never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
That a head coach would tell his coordinator, I need 32 points from your offense this week. I need 27 points. I need 22 points, or whatever the number is. Yeah. I find that to be interesting. That's why having a guy like him on the show is so important. And, there's confusion on the Steel City crew about who's coming on where. We have a second hour coming up here in a few minutes, but before I get to that, I want to let you know that portions of today's show are brought to us by Arch Masonry and Restoration. Now, folks, I've been in construction for over a decade, and I've been working with Arch Masonry and Restoration for quite a long time, 10 plus years. Great company. They really care about their employees, and guess what? Even though it's November, they are hiring. If you're a bricklayer or a block layer who has slowed down with work where you're at, and you want to go to work, Arch Masonry has it for you. They're looking for professional craftsmen who have experience in brick and block work. They're looking for concrete finishers and labor help. If you don't have experience in the construction field, that's okay. You can learn on the job because Arch offers advancement programs and classes that can jumpstart your career in the building trades. You can call 412-564-5733 to learn more, or visit their website, archmasonryinc.com. It's all right there for you. Listen, again, benefits, programs that will teach you a trade, the things that other companies may not be looking for to give to their employees. Arch definitely does it. Check them out, archmasonryinc.com. Steel City Sunday rolls on here as the Steelers and Colts get ready for a 1 o'clock kickoff at Acrisure. In the 11 o'clock hour, we will have our Behind Enemy Lines segment with Colts podcaster Derek Larger. He co-hosts a show called Behind the Juice. It's a Colts podcast. He can be found on X and YouTube. Also in the 11 o'clock hour, our NFL Whip Around segment with our Sirius XM's NFL insider Zig Fracassi. We'll talk about the Colts and Steelers. We'll talk about Lamar Jackson returning to action Thursday night, just 4 touchdown passes in a road win against Miami. We'll talk about who the league MVP is at this point. We'll get his thoughts on the Bengals game today. They are hosting Chicago, 1 o'clock kickoff. And we'll talk about some of the other big games today. I believe Buffalo and Kansas City are playing this week, are they not?
Mm-hmm.
They are playing. I don't know if that's the late game or not, but it is the late game at Buffalo. Should be a Donnybrook, as they once said. At 11:30, our Steeler Nation Spotlight with Anthony Halkias, lead writer for SteelerNation.com, covering the Steelers. He'll join us at 11:30, and at 11:45, Consig's Picks, where we talk gambling and betting lines and props. We've got a guy by the name of The Degenerate, who I found not too long ago on X. He's something else. The other day he did a review of Raising Cane's that I thought was entertaining, but that's not actually why I followed him. If you go to his X page, The Degen Weekly, at the top he's got this pinned tweet that was a take on an Anthony Bourdain quote from years ago, where Anthony encourages people to go and try a hollandaise sauce, go to a bar you've never been to, have a pint, talk to people. He did a spin on it regarding gambling, which I thought was hilarious. The DGen Weekly on X. He's going to be joining us at 11:45 on our Consig's Pick segment as we roll along. As we head into this game, I'm just going to be completely honest. I don't like our chances today. Of course, every time I predict something, it goes the opposite way, which might be good for the Steelers. If I don't think they're going to win today, Bill, I'll get you in here for a few minutes and talk about this. And last week I thought, the Packers would run the ball relentlessly against us, and they did not. But it turns out that their philosophy was pretty good. Jordan Love was getting rid of that ball 2.5 seconds. Mm-hmm. The pass rush never had time, and his reads were just spot on. I mean, he destroyed the Steelers. 20 straight completions. His third down completion percentage was insane. I can't see how Taylor doesn't run the ball 20 times in the first half against us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, the Colts' explosive offense, it's basically led by Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Taylor's coming off a 3-touchdown game. I mean, he's been the major contributor in the Colts' success. And you look at the Steelers, I mean, Hey, listen, the offense is not to blame for anything. I mean, thank God for Aaron Rodgers. That's all I got to say. Thank God
Yep.
for Aaron Rodgers. Where would we be without him? This defense has
Two
been
and five.
right.
Yeah, we'd be
Exactly.
2-5.
Exactly. This defense has been inconsistent with a capital I. Okay,
Yeah.
allowing 30+ points in your three losses. Not good. Not good. It's just we'll see what happens. I don't have a good feeling about it either, but that's why they play the game. I mean, who knows? Any given Sunday, right?
Right.
So
No, yeah, they lose the Jets game for sure, and they probably lose the Vikings game. I mean, they forced 5 turnovers against a New England Patriots team who, by the way, right now is 6-2.
yeah, how
They're
about
six and
that?
two.
Yeah,
But that's the product of having a quarterback. As I see Mac Jones up there on the screen, he's now
yeah,
coming into his own.
right. Drake
And
May.
I'm sorry, Drake May. Excuse me,
Yeah,
Drake
yeah,
May. Yeah, he's coming into his own.
yeah.
And the fact that
Well,
they're 6-2 is just simply
and they're
amazing.
and they're playing great defense too. I tell you what, Vrabel, he's another guy that's kind of a defensive minded coach, but man, he has those guys ready to play week in and week out.
Yeah, they have 213 points so far this year. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's only 8 teams in the league that have over 200 points. They're one of them.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. Do you really? I mean, I know. I think Paul mentioned it, and do you think there's any merit to the Colts? They're an indoor team. I know that what Lucas Oil they can open the
Absolutely. Oh,
yeah
without a doubt.
yeah. I
Yeah,
know they
without
can
a doubt.
open their stadium roof.
Right.
But I was just looking at the Colts. They haven't won in Pittsburgh since 2008.
That was the other thing. That's the
Yeah.
they're what 2-15, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think they've not had much success in Pittsburgh over the decades. That's
Yeah.
very
But
true.
But then in recent years, they haven't had a record coming in like
Right.
this, though, too.
Yeah, well, they
I
haven't
mean-
been this. They certainly haven't been this good since the the Peyton Manning era when they
Yeah.
went on that crazy run where they had like 10-win seasons galore, 3 AFC championships, went to obviously a couple Super Bowls, and had that magical run under him when they got really really good.
Here's what I think. I think if Steelers win the toss, I don't think you defer. I think you get the ball and you try. And I mean, I'm serious. I think you try to just score quickly and often. That's what it just
Well, and that's going to require Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball.
correct.
And their offensive line, to their credit, we started this season out talking about how bad the offensive line was, and they were. But they have quietly over the last 4 weeks improved. I mean, they gave up some sacks last week. Obviously, with Micah Parsons, you're going to give up sacks to a team of that nature with a player of that caliber.
Yeah.
But really, they went, I think, a couple weeks where they didn't give up a single sack,
Right.
and have essentially helped protect a 41-year-old quarterback who, in and of himself, is able to find places to get that ball. And, we've talked about Art Smith. We've given Art Smith credit. He has schemed through the course of the first, 7 games fairly well, getting guys open. That Jets game, for example, the Cedric Wilson touchdown pass, right? He was wide open. Like it was just they just schemed that so well, and there were several of those opportunities that they capitalized on, and that's a combination of both Smith and Aaron Rodgers and the players are all on the same page.
Yeah, and like we said, I think it was Coach said, the Colts defense they've shown vulnerability against the pass this year. So, that's maybe their Achilles heel that you can take advantage of. But I just think get the ball, and I think you should just try to be. You should have a sense of urgency on offense. You should try to, like I said, score quickly and often as you can in this matchup because. Like I said, this defense has just been. I cannot believe it's as bad as what it is. I really can't. Like I said, there's no blame on the offense. I mean, we're really not. I mean, they week in and week out, they're doing what they're supposed to do, and they're doing what they're asked, and that's
Yeah.
and they're putting up 30+ and still not winning. I mean, that just goes
Yeah.
to show you how bad the defense is.
Yeah, it has been bad. We'll see how it all plays out today. I think they got to get Nick Herbig on the field. I'm tired I'm tired of hearing about, well, he can't play the run well. I don't care.
Right.
He got on that field in the New England game after 2 games, right? He got on that field. Highsmith was injured, and he just was a game changer for them.
Right.
right? You got Harmon back from injury, and he certainly played a factor in all of that. But Nick Herbig was a catalyst on that defense over a couple of games, and it changed the course of things. They went 3-1, went into the bye week, and then they get the win against the Browns coming out, and he plays extremely well. And then all of a sudden, okay, they gave up a whole bunch of running yards against Chase Brown in Cincinnati. He's on the field for 29 snaps,
Yeah.
and then they come back and it's even less.
Yeah.
Against Green Bay last week, 24.
Which the Chase Brown thing, I mean, that's so uncalled for. I mean, that was an offense that was averaging on the ground a little over 57 yards a game.
Right.
I mean, it just God. I mean, how can you be that bad? I mean, I just it's just mind-boggling to me that that we're talking about how bad this defense is.
Yeah, I know it's not been good. I think for the Steelers, certainly the players, like the comments that were coming out of that locker room on Sunday night were a little shocking, right? They just, you're getting paid top dollar to perform, and Cam Hayward and some of these guys are just like lethargic, or they're just not super interested. It's strange. Find the will to change that attitude and dig a little deeper. I mean, these are all cliches, but these are professional athletes that are paid a lot of money. They don't have the luxury of feeling that way. They've got to figure a way to turn that around.
Well, my show Wednesday, we had Ray Fittipaldo on the show, and I asked him, I said, hey, Ray, you're in that locker room week after week. Do you sense any like frustration in Aaron Rodgers? I mean, I know he's not going to say it, but when you think about it, he's having a good year. Their offense is having a good year, and he's in the back of his mind. He's got to be thinking, here I am, finally on a team where the offense is clicking, but our defense can't stop a freaking nosebleed.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And I mean, that's got to be. He's not going to say it. I know he's not going to say it, but that's got to be weighing on him. I mean,
well, they've got to get that out of their mind. You know what I mean? They got to put that aside. Correct. All right. We're into our second hour of Steel City Sunday, live from the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. I'm John Phillips. Pleased you could be joining us here on YouTube, X, and we're on our Facebook page at Steel City Sunday, broadcasting live. I'm very excited to bring in our next guest from the Behind the Jews podcast, a Colts podcast. Guy lives in Ohio, but he's a big Colts fan. Hey, let's welcome to our show Derek Larger, co-host of Behind the Juice. Derek, good morning. How are things in Sydney, Ohio this morning?
Man, I mean, well, I don't live in Sydney right now.
Oh, okay.
I am just a few miles away, but nevertheless, man, it does feel good to be in Ohio right now. It feels like fall, and it feels like prime football weather right now.
I'm a big fan of Ohio, by the way. I just want to make that clear. My second wife, I met her. She lived in Dayton at the time. She's a Pittsburgher, but she lived in Dayton. I used to work in Western Ohio, up and down I-75. Yeah. I mentioned to you Tip City, one of my Tippecanoe High School. I mean, how many people can say they've been to Tippecanoe High School, for crying out loud? Sydney and all of those, Xenia and all those rare areas up that way. Hey, thanks for coming on the show this morning. Absolutely. Boy, the team you follow and talk about is on fire to start the season. 7-1. Let's start with the head coach. Yeah, Shane Steichen has just come in here and changed things, and it looks like the Colts from a little more than a decade ago when Peyton Manning was tearing things up. Let's start with Shane and your thoughts on how he has revamped this Colts team and put it in the direction that they're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back from 2022, just what happened with the previous coach and Frank Reich, I mean, he lost the locker room. I mean, that was a team that, the play wasn't matching anything that they were preaching, and then everybody just lost it at that point. So, Shane Steichen had to start all from scratch. You had all these players that Chris Ballard has brought in, and Steichen had to revamp everything that has happened. And through all the quarterback issues that have still been happening, Shane Steichen has still been able to keep this team right at around 500 the whole time, just looking for that one quarterback to start breaking open this offense. And, Shane Steichen has just brought a whole new level to how this team is operated, especially offensively. I mean, you talk about what happened with Sean McVay when he became the head coach of the Rams and how great their offense has become. We talk about Andy Reid and what he did when he went to Kansas City. I mean, you're talking about just a guy that his offensive philosophy and what he's able to do with all these different quarterback styles and be able to implement an offense that has just exploded onto the scene. I mean, it's no shock of what's happening with the Indianapolis Colts, just with the fact that now they have the quarterback that is smart enough to actually be able to run that offense.
Yeah, and you're talking about Daniel Jones, a.k.a. Danny Dimes. I want to get into him in a moment. I want to talk about Jonathan Taylor. I don't know why Patrick Mahomes is the odds-on candidate. Well, I know why, because, everybody's got a hard-on for Kansas City and Patty Mahomes. Look, I'm not taking anything away from the guy.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl championships, he's got 3. Everybody's already talking about him being a top 5 NFL all-time quarterback, which was justified. But I think right now, if I had a vote, it would be Jonathan Taylor. He has just been an explosive force this season, and I think it's hard to you could talk about Dan obviously being it, but I think Taylor's the league MVP right now. What say you, sir?
Yeah, I know it's tough to be able to give a running back an MVP vote because, obviously quarterback, it's the most valuable position in football. But I mean, you're right. Jonathan Taylor right now, I think the biggest difference is Jonathan Taylor is finally healthy. Over the last 2 seasons, he's missed, I think it's been almost a dozen games over the last 2 years because his ankles have been flaring up. He's had those issues since coming into the league, but some years it doesn't really impact him as much. You look back to 2021 when we were having that conversation of him being potentially an MVP candidate. I mean, that was an amazing year for him. I mean, he was single-handedly carrying the Indianapolis Colts on the back end of their season when Carson Wentz was having difficulties. And now, I mean, Jonathan Taylor looks even better now than what he did in 2021. And that was an amazing year. I mean, Jonathan Taylor looks faster. He looks stronger. His vision is better than ever. I mean, he just looks like the ultimate complete back. And what has been great about him this year is the Colts don't have to take him out on third downs anymore. He has been a guy that has improved in his pass blocking. So he's been able to stay out on the field for every down. I mean, Amir Abdullah takes a couple snaps from him every once in a while, but Jonathan Taylor has been able to stay on the field all the time. And the best part about his numbers this year, he's not been getting 30 carries a game ever. He has yet to have a single game this year where he has touched the ball 30 times. He's usually doing it on 20 carries or 25 touches at most. Very rarely is he getting these 150, 200-yard games and 3 touchdowns on 25 plus more carries. I mean, he's been super efficient at being able to get the stuff that he wants.
Jonathan, John Edborg checking in via YouTube. I watched the Colts beat the Chargers at SoFi. Taylor is a beast. Their wide receivers, tight ends, and O-line. They've been so good. You've been so good all year. By the way, Taylor, only 26. We talk about age and running backs. He's only 26. I believe he's under contract through next year, correct?
Yes.
Signed an extension. Yep. So, at 27, he's certainly in the prime of his career. I mean, yeah, it's rare for running backs past 30 to be effective. I mean, Derrick Henry is maybe the exception to the rule right now in the NFL. But the Colts, they're certainly benefiting from a healthy Jonathan Taylor, as you mentioned. And that offensive line, scary about how good they've played this year.
Yeah, no doubt. And there were question marks from some Colts fans about the center and the right guard because you let Ryan Kelly and Will Fries leave in free agency. And Will Fries, we saw the contract that Minnesota gave him. And obviously Ryan Kelly was willing to leave to go to Minnesota as well. Ryan Kelly, he's been injury prone though. So I knew that they were probably going to move on from him. I didn't think we were going to pay Will Fries the money that he wanted. And he has regressed. But yet somehow, some way, Chris Ballard from the 2024 draft drafted both of their replacements in Tanner Bortolini and Matt Gonsalves. And while they both might be slightly undersized for the positions that they're at, they're both athletic and both are technically sound. So they are perfect for the type of run blocking scheme. The Colts run block in a way that few other teams are able to actually comprehend. I mean, this zone gap scheme with all the amount of ways that they pull guys, it just confuses defenses in so many ways, and it allows for these holes to open up that Jonathan Taylor can utilize, and they're so athletic. I mean, obviously Tanner Bortolini, an insanely athletic guy coming out of college. Quentin Nelson maybe playing the best offensive line play that he's had since coming into the league, and he's been a top 5 offensive linemen since coming in. And then Bernard Ryman, who he extended in the offseason, he's living up to expectations. And Braden Smith, who last year he left the game for almost a year to, he had some mental health issues that were going on, severe stuff that was going on, and he had to correct that stuff. He's corrected it. He's come back. He's healthy now, and he is playing at the best level that he has since coming into the league. I mean, everyone is just doing their job, and everyone's doing it at an insanely high level. And it's no wonder that Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones have been able to do what they've done, because this offensive line is just looking like the best unit in the NFL right now.
They certainly are. We're pleased to be joined by podcaster Derek Larger. He is the co-host of Behind the Juice, a Colts podcast. You can find that on YouTube. Also, check out their X page, BTJ Pod. You can also find Derek on X at Derek_Larger. I want to bring in Bill Akins. He wants to ask a question of you, sir.
Hey, how's it going, Derek? So my question is, and I'm not trying to jinx you guys, but let's be real here. We know that injuries happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there. Let's say Jonathan Taylor gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
How does that dynamic of that offense change? I mean, because let's face it, the opponents that the Colts have faced this year, those defenses are going into that game definitely respecting the run. So how does that dynamic of that offense change? Just saying, if they were happen to lose Jonathan Taylor for a few games, let's just say a few games. I'm not going to say the whole season, but let's say a few games.
Yeah, it definitely changes a lot. I mean, you can never replace a running back like Jonathan Taylor, but the one good thing I have seen from the limited runs that Amir Abdullah has actually had with this team, he averages about 7 yards a carry for the few rushes that he has had this year. So, I mean, Abdullah definitely can string together a couple of good things. I think what is just so interesting about it is, again, it's not a standard run option where, just guys are blocking the people in front of them and the running back just has to find the right gap. The Colts move their offensive linemen so many different ways that it allows for these gaps to open up to where the running backs don't really have to decipher it as much as what they would have in a traditional running scheme. I think the other good thing is, I think the Colts would be able to, still be able to subsidize it, because we've seen how efficient Daniel Jones and the pass offense has been this year. Even in games where Jonathan Taylor isn't running for 100 yards a game, they're still able to throw the football the way they want to. Just the mere presence of knowing that the Colts can and will run the football, even if they're not having success with it, allows for them to be able to attack deep. And we've seen Daniel Jones be able to test good defenses this year. They faced a couple this year and has been able to do it without much problem at all. So, even if we did have to lose Jonathan Taylor for a few games, while it definitely would slow down the offense, this offense is still able to put up points in spite of that.
Yeah, for sure they are. A couple more minutes with Derek Larger, co-host of Behind the Juice, a Colts podcast. This is our Behind Enemy Lines segment here on Steel City Sunday. Okay, let's go and talk a little bit more about how about Michael Pittman? How about the receiving core for this team? I'm looking at the Steelers today, and obviously, like last week, I thought the Packers come out and run the ball 30 times, and they didn't. Their quarterback threw the ball 20 straight completions, 360 yards, and he shredded our defense. Let's talk about the receiving core. Michael Pittman. Let's talk about Tyler Warren. How much of an impact that they've had on Danny Dimes and the success he's had?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, the best part about the Colts receivers is you don't have that alpha dog like a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase or something like that, but everyone does their job right. That you have a guy that can beat you in every single way on the defense. So like Michael Pittman, he's your reception guy. He's not going to burn you down deep, but anything within 20 yards, Michael Pittman's a good route runner. He's got great hands, great vision. He's tough. So that's something that you can work with. Alec Pierce, best deep threat in the entire NFL. He averages 22 yards per catch right now, leads the NFL. If you throw it deep, Alec Pierce being 6'3", 210 pounds and can run a 4.4, I mean, that's a cornerback matchup nightmare for anyone. And then Josh Downs, where 60% of the time when he catches the football, it goes for a first down or a touchdown. So, I mean, when he catches it, he's that route technician. He's just the guy that he's going to line up in the slot. He's going to get that favorable matchup on whatever linebacker is facing him. He is open. And then Tyler Warren, he has been the recipe. He's been the hidden secret to this recipe of this offense this year. I mean, what's crazy is last year, the best tight end we had on the roster, he had 17 catches for 183 yards and I think 1 touchdown last year. And Tyler Warren beat those stats in 3 games. And Tyler Warren is just on a freight train situation right now. And Warren gets attacked very early in games. He doesn't typically get attacked late in games. But that first or second drive, Tyler Warren gets targeted a lot, either in the screen game or he's in the fullback formation and goes on a sail route and the linebackers lose him and he gets a big 25-yard gain. That's been the recipe for the Colts this year to get started early on offenses because defensive coordinators, there's no one to target in particular. Everyone gets targeted in this Colts offense almost equally. So, if you're a defense, you're like, well, we can't gravitate to this guy because then this guy gets targeted. We can't do this or else they do this. So it's kind of been who do you target? How do you shut down an offense that is so evenly spread out? It's been awesome to watch so far.
Yeah, Warren, by the way, yards after catch 293. That's pretty good. And you said the balance in their receiving has been impressive. Okay, before I let you go, quick prediction on what you think is going to happen today, Mr. Larger.
I think that I said earlier this week, I think it's going to be a little bit of a shootout. I think you guys, your offense will have a little bit of success against our defense, but I do think our offense will get the benefit of the doubt. I think I said 28-24 Colts in this matchup. So I think it'll be a shootout.
All right, close game. Derek Larger, co-host of Behind the Juice, a Colts podcast. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on X. Derek, thanks for joining our show today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. All right. Behind Enemy Lines is done. Let's move on to Zig Fracassi in just a moment. I do want to tell you about Arch Masonry and Restoration. We cannot do this show without our sponsors, of course, North Park Lounge Richland and the Hilltop Event Center, where we broadcast live for every game. But Arch Masonry and Restoration is hiring in Pittsburgh, seeking professional craftsmen with experience in brick and block work. concrete finishing, and labor help. By the way, if you want to jumpstart a career in construction and have no experience, that's no problem. You can learn on the job because Arch provides advancement programs and classes that can get your career going in the building trades. 412-564-5733 or visit archmasonryinc.com to learn more. We bring in our NFL insider. Been covering sports for nearly 40 years, 22 at Sirius XM's NFL Radio, the one, the only, the legend himself in his mind mostly, Mr. Zig Fracassi, joining us now on the broadcast. Good morning, Zig.
Hi, Mr. Mind. How are you?
Geez, I tell you what. It's been hey, I love you too, brother. It's good to hear your voice. Good to talk with you as always. I mean, what more can be said about the Colts right now? Best record in the league, 7-1. They're really a controversy or a questionable penalty call away from being 8-0. Right, against the Broncos at Indianapolis, right? That long field goal, there was that penalty that was called. It gave the Broncos another opportunity, and they won it at the gun on that long kick.
No. It was against the Rams.
I'm sorry, the Rams. Thank you. Okay, I thought it was called.
Because they won that game. I think it was week 2. What you're thinking of is the kid Mitchell who ran the big play for the touchdown, but he dropped the ball just before the goal line. And then, JP, there was a call on Mitchell that negated a late go-ahead touchdown by Jonathan Taylor. So, indeed, the Colts could be 8-0, but you're correct on that.
Fair enough. Let's get thoughts on today's game. Let's just get your thoughts on. Let's start with the Colts, since they seem to be just so good right now. Surprising? Are you surprised a little bit?
I am, but, we had a couple of sort of Colts-related guests on the show with Todd and I yesterday. Of course, Rick Venturi, longtime NFL assistant, been the Colts radio analyst for many years, and he's seen it all. He thought that Daniel Jones was going to fit in rather well because, let's face it, of the great offensive line that they have. Of course, I heard your previous guest talking about Jonathan Taylor. Some, like myself, believe he could be the MVP, and better receivers. Matt Hasselbeck, who spent some time with Indianapolis during the Andrew Luck era, was telling me, he says, from what I was able to see, it wasn't surprising to him at all, especially with Anthony Richardson struggling the way that he has. So, long answer to your question, JP, I'm not surprised. $14 million looks like a real value now in terms of a starting quarterback. And, I think maybe Danny Dimes got something out of his time in Minnesota under Kevin O'Connell. Isn't this ironic? They had Sam Darnold, they had Daniel Jones, and now, unfortunately, because McCarthy's been hurt, they need a quarterback. It's really been rather amazing. But and on defense, too, they've lost some people. Excuse me. I believe they get Jones, I believe it is. Their longtime corner. I think he comes back today. They've had a lot of injuries, Ebukam among others too, but they've been able to create big plays defensively, which is why they've held their own while the offense has been so proficient.
If the Steelers have a chance today, does Aaron Rodgers have to throw the ball more than 30 times?
I think so, and I really think that, that they're going to have to get DK into a lot of ISOs and things like that. And then, maybe try Austin on some gadget plays, things like that. Have to get Freiermuth more into the to the ball game. And I agree with your other guest too. I think this is going to have to be a shootout for the Steelers to have a chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think both teams probably will go in the high 20s, low 30s today. Or at least that's what my parlay is going to look like a little bit later on, Zig. And I'll cut you in for at least 10%. Provided if I do lose, you're covering half.
Okay.
All right. So, hey, we're talking with Zig Fracassi, 22-year veteran of Sirius XM's NFL Radio. You can hear him on that channel doing shows and updates and all kinds of good stuff there. Been a broadcast veteran for over 35 years. All right, let's get into Lamar Jackson. I want to talk about some of the other league stuff with you. Comes back on Thursday night. Look, I'm not saying Miami is the 72 Dolphins. They're a pretty bad football team. Now we're hearing rumors that they got rid of their GM. Right. That's number one. And now we're hearing rumors that Tua might be on his way at least to the bench, and they may try to explore some other options potentially. Lamar Jackson, your thoughts on his performance Thursday night? 4 touchdown passes, look pretty good.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the Dolphins are a train wreck right now, and you mentioned they had the mutual parting of the way with Chris Greer, who, by the way, JP, had been there for some 25 years. Of course, his father, Bobby, longtime Patriots executive. His brother, Mike, was an NHL player for a lot of years, who's now the GM of the San Jose Sharks. So just a little background there. Lamar looked like Lamar, running around freely, being able to make some big plays. Of course, he found his safety net, Mark Andrews, a couple of times. And there's a belief now that maybe because the way that AFC North is going, Baltimore could go on a run. They are 3-5. Although it was interesting yesterday, JP, you rarely see an in Saturday day before a game trade, but they unloaded Jair Alexander, who was a former first-round pick of the Packers. They moved him on to Philadelphia for a 6th-round pick. So I thought that was interesting for a team that needed defensive backfield help, yet Alexander wound up getting traded after such a short period of time. So it'll be interesting to see if Baltimore does load up too, because the deadline's coming up in a couple of days.
Yeah, it is coming up in a couple of days. One thing about the NFL, I mean, you don't get many blockbuster deals at the trade deadline. That's usually, reserved for off season, or at least certainly getting into the.
You've had more in recent years.
With a few, you have. Yeah. That's true. So we'll see what happens in the next few days. I don't know if the Steelers are going to make any moves. There was talk of them signing a receiver early in the week, and then that got squashed. Right. Out of nowhere. That was a little odd, but it is what it is. This team right now struggling defensively. We've talked a little bit about the fact that Nick Herbig, who kind of assumed a role after in week 3 when Alex Highsmith got hurt, he came in and was just changed things up, certainly in that big win against the New England Patriots, who I want to get to in a moment, that are 6-2, forcing turnovers, big plays, same thing against the Vikings. Last couple weeks, though, 29 snaps against the Bengals, 24 against Green Bay. They say his run defensive prowess is not very good. I say that if he's a playmaker and you're struggling defensively, why are you not putting a guy like that in more? Your thoughts on that philosophy, if you will.
Yeah, I again, it's got to be an issue of. I wish I had an intelligent answer. I got to think maybe it's a little bit of a confidence thing, or maybe they're being a little bit stubborn. I mean, let's face it, the Steelers, it's been well documented. They got the highest paid defense in the NFL, and you got to have confidence that Hayward and obviously TJ are going to be able to make their share of the plays, because they bring in a lot of the money, and you got to have a lot of production there. But yeah, I mean, we'll see if they start to utilize Herbig a little bit differently. Thinking back, JP, to my conversation with Rick Venturi yesterday, something they may want to watch out for. He found that watching the game tape, that the Steelers are really kind of iffy in terms of second to third level defense. So in other words, look for the Colts, excuse me, to try to, exploit that quite a bit, where you see Pittman and Downs and some of these other receivers, the tight end Warren, maybe utilize that to their advantage today. So that's an area that they're going to need to shore up.
If the Colts continue on this pace, all right, let's just say Taylor continues to just rip the league apart, Jones playing extremely well. Would you be shocked if they swept? And I know Mahomes is right now everybody's odds-on favorite, at least right now, for league MVP. Right. I think Taylor is. Could you see Taylor winning league MVP, Jones comeback player of the year, and possibly Shane Steichen as coach of the year? Could they sweep those three?
I think it's entirely possible, although I think in Jones's case, JP, if in terms of comeback, normally I think that gets associated
with an injury.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But it does sound you're not wrong in thinking that he actually, from a moral standpoint, I guess, because he was so buried with the Giants, it is kind of a comeback. But I could see JT getting the MVP. And Steichen, let's face it, he was a highly thought of mind when was running the offense there with the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's not surprising. I mean, the Colts were even competitive before they had Daniel Jones, even with Anthony Richardson and the quarterback shuttle. Even though Indy seemed like they were starting a different quarterback every week last year, they were still in and around the chase in the AFC South, which may say how bad that division is. But this year, everything's clicking. So I think they're going to get multiple hardware if they continue their path.
Couple more minutes with Zig Fracassi, our NFL insider on SiriusXM's NFL Radio. Chiefs and Bills tonight from Orchard Park.
Today, yep.
Yeah, tonight. It's 4:25. Thank you.
Right.
What are your thoughts on big? I thought it was at 8. I thought they were the late game tonight. What are your thoughts on that game tonight? Big game, obviously. Positioning both those teams. Bills are 5-2. I think Kansas City 5-3.
5-3, yeah.
Big game, obviously. Your thoughts on that this afternoon?
Just for your tonight, JP, it's the Seahawks and the Commanders that are.
Thank you. Yes,
yep.
8:20. Yep. Okay.
And by the way, Art Monk finally getting his jersey number 81 retired. By the way,
really?
Yeah. Like, why wasn't that done like 100 years ago?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
fair enough.
And he was so great.
Yeah, he was.
Those receivers on those teams. This game in Orchard Park, I think, and I also do a overreaction Buffalo with the Believe people with Jerry Ostrowski, former Bills lineman.
Jerry O, former Pitt Panther.
Was he? No, he was.
I'm thinking of another. I'm sorry, Jerry Osapsky. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're all related at this.
They're all related. Yeah, that's right. Go ahead, sir.
No, but anyway, just doing the show with Jerry, you almost get the idea that it's like it's a big game, but we know what generally tends to happen where Buffalo wins in the regular season, but if they play in the postseason, Kansas City's always going to take it. Although this year, listening to a lot of the talk coming out of Western New York, they seem to have some doubts that they could actually win this game because Kansas City's playing as well as they are. Obviously, after the 0-2 start, now Rashee Rice comes back. They got a full complement of receivers. Mahomes seems to be dialed in as ever. The defense, JP, has been constant. They've had an issue, though. Butker, normally reliable kicker, has been missing some kicks, so that's something to watch. Buffalo, I think this is going to be a little bit of a challenge for them today, obviously, because Kansas City's diverse passing game. The Bills, and they lose probably their best defender, and Oliver, once again, to a biceps injury. He's going to be out most of the regular season. They did get Ogunjobi, the former Steeler, and Hoyt back from suspension to help the run defense. I could see Kansas City taking this ball game today, though. It seems like they're on a roll, and I think they're on the let's shut everybody up tour to show, hey, we're not dead yet.
Zig Fracassi of SiriusXM's NFL Radio, our NFL insider, joining us every week. Zig, quick prediction on the Colts and Steelers before I let you go.
All right, my friend. Always a pleasure. I'm going to say the Colts keep this train running 30-27.
Thank you, Zig. Always a pleasure, buddy.
All right, my friend. You take care, JP.
All right. Zig Fracassi. Been doing it a long time. His depth of knowledge is just, it's the most amazing thing. I that's why I love bringing him on, because he can talk about every team. Maybe that's why he's with SiriusXM's NFL Radio for 22 years. We'll see. Let's see. Anthony, quick Wi-Fi issue. We'll have Anthony Halkias here in just a few moments. John Edborg, checking in via YouTube. There is nothing wrong with admitting the wrong players are starting regardless of status and contract. Adjusting to the old DBs who look their age would be okay. Guess he's referencing the Steelers. I mean, look, I don't know how we stop this team either through the air or on the ground today. Right? Nothing you can talk about, what we have seen, especially over the past 2 weeks, and really for the majority of the season, would lead you to think that we can either stop the run or the pass. And against a team that is the best offense in the league, arguably the MVP of the league, a quarterback that is just destroying defenses, and he's not like, he's not throwing for 350 a game, but, Daniel Jones has been extremely efficient as a passer. And, and I'll bring in Bill Akins here. Bill, what are the – I mean, pick your poison, I guess, in terms of how you focus on stopping either of these, specific areas of the offense, running or passing when it comes to the Colts.
You know what concerns me? Mike Tomlin, in his press conference this week, made the comment. Somebody asked him, "What changes are you going to make on defense?" And what did he say? We're not going to make any changes. We're gonna try to tackle better. I mean, that in itself is just that should be concerning to Steelers faithful, to the fans. I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's going to be tough today. That's why I said, you know what? If you win the toss, I would not defer. I would get the ball.
Yeah.
And I would try to just, you got to have a sense of urgency on offense. Like I said, you got to score quickly and often, because it's going to be tough to try and stop this prolific offense of Indy. It's going to be tough. I mean, look at it. I mean, you struggled against the run against the frickin' Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
Now you're facing the best rushing attack in the league. I mean, it's just,
I don't know how you don't play Jonathan Taylor for 2 touchdowns today. I don't know how you don't play him for 110 yards rushing today. Last week against Green Bay, I thought Jones would run the ball crazy. He did have a touchdown in the second half, but he didn't rack up a ton of yardage on the ground. They didn't have to, because Jordan Love threw the ball like a madman all game long, and especially in the second half.
Well, I'll tell you what. That was great. That was great game planning by the Packers.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do something that they're not expecting, right? They're expecting us to run the ball, and no, you know what? We're confident in our passing game, and we're going to exploit their secondary, a very old secondary, I may add, as well. So,
That's fair. That's very fair indeed. All right, Steel City Sunday rolling on here on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. John Phillips here, along with Bill Akins. We continue to bring in guests. I don't know if Anthony has joined us yet. Not yet. He's having some issues. If we do not get to Anthony, that's okay. But if he's able to join us here in the next few minutes, we'll have him on. We love talking to him.
He's in now.
All right, let's get Anthony in here. Anthony Halkias II, feature writer for SteelerNation.com. Good morning, young man. How are you?
Good morning, John. How are you doing?
Good. How was the game last week? I know it was a terrible loss, but you were at the game last Sunday with Justin and the crew. How fun was that?
Well, we had a blast over at the terrible tailgate for most of the day, and then when game time came around, I mean, until that third quarter, really late into that third, they had a chance. It was an ugly game. Really one that I was not expecting. I thought when you go into half 16-7, get the ball coming out of half, seems like a pretty Tomlin recipe to win a game. So I was pretty stunned the way they came out in the second half, but is what it is. Still a long season left.
Yeah, I mean, stunned isn't the word. I mean, they ran the ball 3 lousy times, up 9 to begin the half, and it was odd. They came out in that first series. I think it was a 3-and-out. They did not look good. They continued to throw the football. And Green Bay did what they did, and it was certainly ugly. I want to start with Nick Herbig with you. Only 24 snaps last week.
Yeah.
We talked about the 29 against Cincinnati, and Coach Tomlin addressed that, and Terrell Austin did later in that week leading up to Green Bay. Well, hey, Chase Brown changed how I called the game, and his run stopping isn't as good. Okay, so first half of this game against Green Bay, he plays somebody, only saw 24 snaps, and they were up at the half. At what point do you have to put that aside and say he's been a damn good player, he's been a productive player, he's been a disruptor, we've got to get him on the field?
Yeah, several games ago. It's crazy at this point. But, I like to think, especially with these coaching decisions, I like to think the people in charge know a lot more than me. Or the fans, right? So I'll defer to Tomlin for the most part. But like you said, I'm getting very confused why him and Terrell Austin haven't put Nick Herbig on the field more. It seems like every time he's out there, he's getting splash plays. So, just put him out there more and get more splash plays. Like, I know it's not that simple, but.
Well, no, it isn't. And that's one of the reasons why, having Todd Haley on because, you can get that perspective that he knows from 20 plus years of coaching in the league, right? Like today I learned that, Mike Tomlin would say, I need 32 points out of your team. I need 27 points out of your offense. Never occurred to me that a coach would ask that of his offensive coordinator. You know what I mean? So you're right. We're not privy to what goes on, but we can, through the eye test, right? We can look and see and say to ourselves, why are we not adjusting? And the other thing I'll say, and this is, I know that Julian Edelman before the season was on a podcast, and he's like, oh, yeah, the Steelers are still doing the same things from when I was playing. And you have players, like I think who was it from Cincinnati a couple weeks ago? We knew what they were doing. We knew what they were doing. Why are we not seeing adjustments from this staff?
Yeah, well, I wrote a piece. It was from Warren Sharp, and 2 weeks prior, what is it?
No, go ahead.
No, 2 weeks prior, before the Packers game, he was sounding the alarm on a few things. And I remember thinking, like, when I was writing it after the fact, knowing that he had said that 2 weeks before, obviously Tomlin knows more than Warren Sharp. You have to think, right? But how does Warren Sharp say this is going to happen, and then it goes and happens? And, Tomlin's not seeing that. And then if there are adjustments being made, the adjustments aren't being made correctly. So either way, it's a big L.
Well, I pointed my finger because I read the same. I love Warren Sharp.
Oh, me too, yeah.
He's so in tune with how the game is played analytically, but also in terms of the X's and O's. He brings both to the table. Again, we're not in the locker room. We're not professional coaches. We don't create schemes offensively and defensively. That's a fair statement to make for fans and people in the media, if you will, that are doing this kind of stuff, breaking down things scientifically, or at least from our perspective, based on what our knowledge is. Warren Sharp knows football. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody says. That guy knows football, and he can break it down extremely well. Brian Baldiger's another one. We're trying to get him on at some point in time. I'm hoping we can get him on in the next few weeks. But Sharp he really lives up to his last name. He really is Sharp. And that you mentioned him. I read as much as I can, or his breakdowns, or whatever he's doing. I try to consume as much of his content as I can because he really has a depth and understanding of why a team is failing, and especially the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, he's on Mike Tomlin's case quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, John, I think you could have put me out there at tight end, and I would have done, what Tucker Kraft did. You know what I mean? It was nothing that impressive. Like, that's the thing is, like, we're not even making these guys beat us. We're just, like, leaving them open. I know it sounds so, elementary to just say that, but at this point, it really is what it is. Every week, I try to just assume it's the NFL, right? So you have to assume some unpredictability, but the Steelers remain the most predictable thing in the NFL. So it's frustrating.
Anthony Halkias joining us here from SteelerNation.com, lead writer. Go check out his work at SteelerNation.com. You can also find him on X as well. Go check out his work. He's joining us here on the weekly Steeler Nation Spotlight segment as we talk about the Steelers and Colts. 1 o'clock kickoff from Acrisure Stadium. By the way, he's Anthony G. Halkias on X. Anthony, let's talk a little bit about Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones. Pick your poison, buddy. What do you think? Who's gonna throw the dagger in the hearts of this defense today? Will it be a combination of both, you think?
I never do this. I'm the most optimistic person in the world, and I always bet the Steelers. I always make some parlays and stuff. I had a bunch of profit boost early in the week, and I was doing Daniel Jones. I was taking Tyler Warren, Michael Pittman. I was taking Jonathan Taylor. It breaks my heart to do it. But like I just said, at a certain point, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope the adjustments are made. I hope they say, well, you know what? We're not going to let Tyler Warren beat us. But like you said, pick your poison. Michael Pittman's killed this team before. Josh Downs in 24 killed this team. And so I think they're going to have trouble with everybody. Alec Pierce could be an issue. In fact, I think he will be an issue. I think Jonathan Taylor could go for 100. Daniel Jones won't shock me if he throws for 300. Like, I'll be impressed if the Steelers defense can keep them under 400. 400 yards total.
It's so funny you say that because Michael Pittman over 54.5 receiving yards and Daniel Jones over 275 pass. I haven't had a chance to look everything up just yet, but I agree with you, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But let's just be honest, right? And you want to be wrong because you're a Steelers fan, but the reality of it is that their offense comes in with just everything clicking, and this defense is staggering into this game. Why not look at those props if you're looking from a gambling standpoint and say, hey, I'm going to take a shot on these. There's no reason to not think Taylor can't go over 100 rushing yards as well or even score a couple of touchdowns. You're not wrong to think that at all.
Well, I waited till week 9 to do it. So I gave this team – I gave them chance after chance. I've lost money on them. Last week I lost money on them. You know, I hammered Steelers money line because I was going to be there. John, I had this great plan. It started 1 p.m. Justin Fields ladder. I laddered Fields, hit that. Okay, then we take George Pickens. We take all that money. We put it on George Pickens. We hit that. And then when the tailgate, I was asking people. I was like, "Is it Steelers money line or Aaron Rodgers throw 2 touchdowns?" So we split it. So it was a decent day because Aaron Rodgers threw the second tutty late, but of course we wanted to win. You know what I mean? It would have been a historic day.
You know, you have my digits, right? I mean, come on now. What are we? You're holding out on me here, Anthony. What are you doing?
I'm on. Right now, I got to get hot again before I start getting my picks out again.
Yeah, there you go. All right, couple more seconds with Anthony here before we let you go. Let's get your prediction. What do you think is going to happen today?
Oh, I thought about this long and hard. I really wanted to come on here and say, like, you know, the Steelers are going to get the win today. They're going to get the win today. And it's just so hard. I'm so optimistic. I really am. And I've watched these last 2 games in depth. You know what? I'm gonna say it. Steelers are gonna pull the upset today. They're gonna have to because they have to do it. It makes no sense for them to get the win today. And so I'm just gonna, from NFL history standpoint, when that happens, typically there's a upset or whatever. I think the Steelers get it done today somehow, some way. It'll be crazy, but they do it.
Anthony Halkias II, lead feature writer for SteelerNation.com, covering the black and gold for SteelerNation.com. Anthony, enjoy the game today. Let's hope the prop bets come in.
Yeah, I'm going to go gamble.
Thanks, buddy. See ya.
Bye.
All right, my man, Anthony Halkias II, joining us on Steel City Sunday. We are hopefully awaiting the degenerate for our Consigs pick segment. Is he in? Excellent. We go from one guest to the other on this show because, quite frankly, less of me is better and more of other people is good. All right. Good follow on X. I found this guy's page not too long ago. Started watching him. Just fun, you know, breaks things down. Loves to talk about gambling. Bringing him in now for our Consigs pick segment is the degenerate, as he goes by on X. The DGen Weekly. You can get his YouTube channel. He's just your Raising Cane's breakdown there. Yeah, and you're good at interacting. I love you're following you because you are interactive with people. But the Raising Cane's breakdown was fantastic, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my first time trying it, and I know people had been telling me about it for so long. And I don't know. I mean, you can offend people, you know, when you talk about food because they really get attached. They really like their things. It's kind of like sports in a way. So I know I pissed a few people off, but for the most part, I feel like I thought it was very average, and I think it was somewhat well received. So
I did say that if you catch it when it's fresh, it's much better. Like anything else, right?
I said that in my review. I drove 15 minutes. And it really, I could tell that it affected, especially the fries.
Yes.
I could tell that it affected it, but the sauce was really good. But yeah, so I got to make my way to Pittsburgh. Obviously, I see you guys are big Pittsburgh guys, but I've only stopped through there one time quickly. So I got to make it back. I heard you got some good food options there.
If you don't mind, where are you based out of? That I have not really figured that one out. Where are you out of?
I was a born and raised Floridian. So I'm a Bucs fan. I'm a Magic fan. I'm a Rays fan.
Okay.
But I've lived in New York for the past 12 years.
Okay.
So I guess, you know, it's like weird. It's like you feel like a New Yorker because you've been there so long. Like you got some wear and tear on you. I'm not as friendly as I once was. But I'm still like a Floridian, I guess you could say, technically.
I love Central Florida. I lived down south for a number of years. That's where I first found Raising Cane's when I was living in South Carolina, and then I started working in Central Florida. Love the central part of Florida. Love all of that down there. Great part of the country for sure. I just curious before we start talking about betting lines and things like that.
Sure.
Where did you learn about sports betting? What was your first foray into that? How did you get introduced to sports betting? Just out of curiosity.
So I was a diehard sports fan my entire life. Funny enough, I have family in Wisconsin, and they tried to get me to like the Packers. And I had a Brett Favre jersey. Like when I got it, my dad thought they spelled their name wrong because it's Favre. And I was wearing a cheese head. I was with my family in Wisconsin, and I was watching them play the Bucks. And it was a battle of the Bay. They were in the same division at the time. And I just loved Mike Alstott. I loved Derek Brooks. I love Warren Sapp. And I was like, you know what? I just am loving the Bucks. So I've always been a sports fan. And way back in the day, I had like AOL, dial up internet.
Yes, right.
I'm 38. I'm not, I'm like kind of an old head. Everybody calls me a boomer and whatever. But there was something you could do on whether it was like CBS or NBC, whatever those websites were, where you could predict the next play. And it was a contest. And at the end, you just won like some stupid, I don't know, points for something. It wasn't gambling.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years old, and doing these. And I just got hooked on it. And then right out of, high school, like 18 years old, I just loved sports so much. And I would try to back up my opinion with my money. And, like when I went to college, I was in the library betting Ben Wallace to miss his first free throw for like $5. And, but funny enough, since you guys are Steelers guys, I have a good story for you.
Okay.
I've become more of a contrarian bettor. Are you familiar with that term?
Yes. Going the opposite way.
Going the opposite way, fading the public, everything like that.
Okay. Yes.
And maybe you'll remember this, but I have a friend who's a Steelers fan. And this was, I want to say it was 2013, 2014. And Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers had just had two back-to-back impressive offensive games. I think Ben Roethlisberger threw for like 400 yards or something in back-to-back games. Okay. Or maybe it was like 300 yards. I don't know if you remember this. Then the Steelers go to play the New York Jets in MetLife.
Yeah.
And Geno Smith was a quarterback. And I'll never forget this. The first time I experienced it. The Steelers were only -3 when they had looked so good and the Jets were bad. And my buddy, who's a Steelers fan, said, I'm making the biggest bet of my life on the Steelers. And sure enough, you can go back and look this up. I don't know exactly. The Jets won that game.
Outright.
That was the switch for me where I was like, I got to be careful because sometimes things look too good to be true. And, they aren't.
It is a truism in sports, and especially on gambling side. You're absolutely right. I brought a guy on a couple of weeks ago called Jack Johnson. He's a former odds maker. He lives in Biloxi, Mississippi, and he is a adamant fade the public. What does the book need, right? You know what I mean? Like he calls it P and S, public and sharp money.
Sure.
What does the book need? And it's last couple of weeks it's been deadly, but over the long haul, they don't build billion-dollar casinos out in the desert because the public is always right. You're absolutely right. We're talking to the Degenerate. You can find him on X at TheDegenWeekly. His website, thedegenerateweekly.com, has a lot of good information. Also, check out his YouTube channel as well, where he streams and talks football with, what's the guy's name, Steak?
The guy's name is Steak, yeah.
Fitting, but very entertaining and certainly informative. All right, when you're looking at games, you've talked a little bit about contrarian look.
Yep.
Do you have a formula? How do you work when you're looking at a board? What are some of the things that you're using, either analytics or just feel? How do you put your card together?
Great question. So something I like to do is buy low and sell high. I'll give you an example. Are you a college football guy?
Yes.
Okay. Yesterday, one of my favorite bets was West Virginia against Houston.
Okay.
The Houston Cougars were 7-point underdogs the week before, and they won outright. I think it was against Arizona State or something. And West Virginia is terrible. They're 2-6. They haven't been good, but they were just competitive somewhat against TCU. But they were 13.5-point underdogs. All I really wanted to do was sell high on Houston after a big outright win. Then they were double-digit favorites. I didn't care who the opponent was. I said, I'm fading Houston. I didn't think Houston was going to lose outright, but West Virginia beats Houston, I think 45-35.
That's right.
That's what I like to do. I mean, there's a couple of things, but like that's the biggest thing. So, this week in the NFL, something that my team and my friends and I, we're not a syndicate, you know what I mean? But something we were talking about is where are some good buy low, sell high spots. And I don't know that it's a sell high spot, but a decent buy low spot we thought was on the Vikings, because it's not even so much. I'm not a big JJ McCarthy guy, but you're kind of buying low on Kevin O'Connell. I still think he's a really good coach. I think he's a good offensive mind. It's a divisional dog. So we were really thinking about like who could be one of those underdogs today that barks that nobody really sees coming, because there's a decent amount of them out there. And I'll also hint to you, I do think the Steelers could be a little live today as well.
Okay. By the way, I was totally square on Houston yesterday. I'm not going to lie. And so that was terrible. Great look on your part. I actually had Minnesota circle today. Actually, yeah. What are the? It's like 9.5, right? Isn't it 9.5?
9.5. I think it might be down to 8.5. I think the
okay.
All over it.
So I of course I don't put mine in until the last minute like every other square out there, which I have been for many decades. But that's interesting. See, so again, I like hearing these types of thoughts from people like yourself, because you're looking at things a little bit differently, whereas people are just betting the public. They're just betting the chalk. They're betting the chalk. They're betting the chalk. And sometimes, I think everybody can get into that sort of thing. But when you're at your level, and I think you're a fairly sharp guy from what I've seen, it's interesting to see how you're thinking, and I think that's pretty valuable. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of the card today. Anything that jumps out? What's the 4:25 game, the big one, Kansas City at Buffalo? Is this a spot where Josh Allen, when he's been a dog at home, he's pretty strong? Kansas City, after a bad start, has gotten things rolling again. Is the wrong side favored here?
I can't say that the wrong side is favored, because, I got a big Bills fan in one of my followings, and he said this. I actually thought it was pretty good. He said, we are a Josh Allen away from being one of the worst teams in the NFL. Now, this is funny after James Cook just carried that team to a victory, essentially in Carolina. But, their defense looked awful against Atlanta. They obviously lost outright at home against the Patriots. I like the bye week is interesting to me. When teams need it, I like to bet on them coming out of it. But I also like to fade teams if they're playing really, really well, and then they hit that bye week, because you don't want it. You don't want to stop. You're in a rhythm, which I've got my eye on the Seahawks. They've been playing great. What are they, 5-2, 7 weeks of football?
That's right.
Really well. They had a bye week. Now they're across the country. I got my eyes on the Commanders too. But the Bills, I don't know that I want to fade Patrick Mahomes, but they also are the team that wins these regular season matchups and then lose in the postseason. My biggest concern is I bet on Patrick Mahomes a few weeks ago to lead the league in passing. He was 20-1. And the reason I did this is because when the Chiefs looked poor their first couple of weeks in the season, do you remember Xavier Worthy got hurt?
Yes.
I believe crossing pattern.
That's right.
If you looked at his weapons when it was like Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton hasn't been bad, but like Travis Kelce is old. I thought to myself, man, Xavier Worthy is a really nice piece. And the guy is a scumbag, but Rashee Rice is a really, really good wide receiver. When this guy gets his weapons back, they're going to be a problem. So I bought into that. Now I feel like an idiot if I go against that. But at the same time, this just kind of feels like a really good spot for Buffalo after getting that bye week when they needed it. 2 bad losses, got a little momentum off of a win against Carolina. And now this is their regular season Super Bowl. It just kind of feels like a spot for them, but I can't tell you it's my favorite play in the card, but I like the Bills.
Fair enough. We are joined by the Degenerate. He goes by the Degen Weekly on X. You can check him out on his YouTube channel as well. He's got a website, thedegenerateweekly.com. Just all things sports betting, just really a good follow if you're a scumbag like myself who likes to wager his money. I used to work for a columnist years ago called Bruce Kyden. He used to write for the Post-Gazette. He ran Dapper Dan Charities for more than 2 decades here in Pittsburgh. He used to say, Mr. Phillips, are you wagering any chocolate chip cookies this weekend? That's how he referred to the betting. So,
Nice.
yeah, he was just, one of those old school writers from many, many years ago. Props. How do you look at props? What are you looking for if you're betting props?
Yeah, I love betting props. And by the way, just so everybody knows, because I'm a very honest, transparent person, I think I had my glory days for a couple of years. And funny enough, how things work out. Once I have my biggest following on social media, I have not been very good for the past 16 to 18 months.
Okay.
I still have my spots, but what happens is my contrarian style kind of started to not work as well. So then I've gotten a blend of making some square bets, making some contrarian, just kind of going with my X's and O's football brain. I have some pretty good reads. I'm picking terrible spots, but the prop market overall, I love to bet it, but I got to tell you, I am far from one of the best prop bettors out there. I've been doing really well on touchdown scores this season.
Okay.
One of my best season with touchdown scores. And today, what I wanted to target, actually, and I'm not just saying this to try to be nice because you're a Steelers fan, was the Steelers passing game. I really wanted to get, I thought it was interesting that the Steelers were 3-point dogs against the Packers, a game in which I liked the Packers. I played them on the first half like a fucking idiot. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse on here. Sorry.
You're fine.
Okay. I played them on the first half. They lose 16-7, and they win the game 35-25.
Right.
But the Steelers are 3-point dogs. They lose by 10. Now they're still 3-point dogs against a Colts team that's 7-1 and looks like one of, if not the best team in the NFL. I thought there might have been a little adjustment, but they're not. I think, and one of my buddies pointed this out to me, this Colts secondary is not good.
No.
They're one of the worst, the bottom 5 in the NFL. And I think that Aaron Rodgers, I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers guy, but I think that they can find some success against them. My friend likes the passing yards. I like Jonnu Smith today. It is hard to pick the carousel. I like Calvin Austin as well. But again, it's kind of like that buy low. I feel like nobody's really on the Steelers today. The Colts look like an easy button to press. Steelers, live dog. Why not buy into a little bit of something that makes sense, statistically? So I'm going to fade that secondary and go with the passing game for the Steelers.
Yeah, the Colts are 29th against the pass, 252 yards a game that they're giving up. I think you got to, and I hate to say this, but you don't want Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball 30 plus times. If they're going to have any chance today, he's going to have to throw the ball 30 plus times, I think.
As much as I love Jaylen Warren, and I was on him against the Bengals, that was my big Jaylen Warren game. But
a great game.
I kind of see it through the air today for whatever reason.
Okay. The Degenerate on X, the DGen Weekly. Sir, thank you for coming on our show. We're brand new, and we appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time, all right?
Of course, man. Thanks for having me on. Good luck with everything.
All right, thank you. The Degenerate, the DGenWeekly.com. Go check out his website. Go check him out on YouTube and X, the DegenerateWeekly.com, his website. Nice. I mean, just I follow a lot of people on X. I've been in this business 30 plus years. I used to live in Las Vegas. I've worked with professional gamblers. Okay. I worked with Dave Koken, right? I worked with people that just were sharp bettors, right? Dave Sharapan, our Consigs Picks segment. Why do we call it Consigs Picks? Because Dave was an odds maker. And Dave knew sports betting. He knew it from both sides, as a gambler and as an odds maker. And I find people his age, that are coming through the ranks that have large followings, and he's got over 30,000 people following him on his X page alone. His YouTube channel is growing. To get that, their ideology, what they look at, I think is important. Look, now that everywhere you go in the country, outside of a few states, you can bet on sports, right? It's what you do on Sundays, what you do every day almost, but especially the NFL. To get that insight, I think, is valuable. If you're watching, we appreciate it. And DGen, thank you for the Raising Cane's breakdown this week. That was a pretty good one. Okay. Up next, as we enter our third hour here of Steel City Sunday, John Phillips with Bill Akins, live North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. I tell you, I've been beating this guy up for weeks about how bad West Virginia is, and here come the Mountaineers. Yesterday, laying the wood.
Yeah.
In Houston, of all things, Mike Oste, managing editor of West Virginia Sports Now, proud West Virginia University graduate, national writer for Yard Barker, girl dad of 2. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, and the Mountaineers are doing better, I'll
Yes.
say. I told you that they covered the week before,
I
and
know.
actually, here's a tease, and this will see whether you really like what they're doing, and if you really want to go high on the Mountaineers to end the year on a high note. They are favored going into their next game for the first time in months. They are favored right now. I saw 6.5 the last time I checked. Over
Who's
Colorado.
on the schedule? Oh, Colorado.
Who's been very bad, and West Virginia's coming off a win. But that's a decent. To be favored for the first time in months, and to be favored by 6.5, it's not 3.5, it's 6.5. They are at home.
So Deion Sanders is going to be in Morgantown.
That's correct.
Oh,
I may go to the road press conference.
You know he's going to stay at the Greenbrier. There's no way he's staying in Morgan.
Maybe he'll stay at the Hotel Morgan. Maybe he'll stay at the waterfront. I will say that the Hotel Morgan's so nice that Bob Huggins may have or may not have lived there for years.
Where is Huggy Bear these days?
Yeah, he's in West Virginia. He's not coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Huggy. There you go.
I actually like Huggins as well. Huggins as well. I had to report on some negative things that I don't know if Huggins loves me as much as he used to, but I love Huggins as well.
Yeah, but that's what you got to do, right? In our line of work, at least in your line of work, you got to certainly do that. Sure. Okay, let's get into Steelers and Colts. I mean, this says bloodbath all over it, but the great guest we had prior is like, hey,
I heard him.
Hey, you may want to look at this in another way. I tried to do that last week. First half looked great. Second half, a completely different story. Yeah. What do you see developing in this contest today? Arguably the number one offense. It is the number one offense in the NFL versus a defense that is just seen better days.
Yeah, and as I've already said on social media and throughout the week on other shows and my show, conventional wisdom says the Colts should destroy the Steelers. They have a great running game. Jonathan Taylor is vying. I already wrote about this too last week. Is vying for the MVP. As rare as that goes to running back, you could absolutely argue for that. Daniel Jones, who was a cast-off that everyone thought was a draft bust after the Giants' tenure ended, he actually could argue for the MVP himself. If you look at how efficient he's been in the yards he's put up, the only quarterbacks who've ever been as efficient with this many yards, touchdowns, etc. over this period of time are Hall of Famers. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers to bring up a Steelers connection here. We're talking about Peyton Manning, Tom Brady of seasons of the past, all MVP years for them. That's what he's doing now. They have a solid group, but there are weaknesses there. And even though the Steelers have many more, certainly a defense that's been porous all year that I thought was even getting overrated earlier in the season when they were relying on turnovers. When they don't get those, they bend and break, and they've been a problem the last several weeks. The Steelers are now losing the last couple of games, and the Steelers are very vulnerable. I heard you also talk about that normally you don't want Aaron Rodgers. This isn't 2011 Aaron Rodgers when he was doing what Daniel Jones is doing now. You don't want him to throw 40 passes a game.
Right.
He's so old now, that would be a problem. Can his arm even handle it? Can he stay upright to do it? Doesn't have the arm strength he had before. That is the recipe for this game. So I guess what I'll say is the Colts should win this. I wouldn't be shocked if the Steelers somehow steal this, even though they haven't been playing well, just because that's kind of what Mike Tomlin does. He'll win a game he shouldn't win when the heat is getting as hot as it's ever been, where everyone's criticizing him, his team is fading, the criticism's legit. I'm criticizing him too, and then he'll somehow pull this off against the best team in the conference. But to do that, they got to pass the football. Jaylen Warren's not doing it. Jonathan Taylor on the other side is going to get his yards. If Rodgers can't do 40 passes a game and 350 yards and do that in this game, they then probably don't win.
Yeah, I think he's got to throw the ball 30-plus times. I've talked to Bill Akins a little bit about this as well. We'll bring Bill in here for a second or two. You've got a pass defense that's 29th in the league.
Right. Yeah.
Colts are terrible against the pass. How do you not win without, Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball at least 30 times?
Yeah. I said it, Mike. I said if the Steelers win the toss, I would not defer. I would take the ball. Okay. I would try and score as much as you can, as quickly as you can.
Quick deep to DK Metcalf and try that like he's been doing in recent weeks. I wouldn't be shocked if they tried that early. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to do that. I mean, it's So
you have to do that. The question will be, and we've seen this too, even going to last week. The Steelers, I do think, are 100% going to try deep early. I almost guarantee it's going to be to DK Metcalf. Rodgers is probably thinking, I can feast on this defense, even though they're a great team. In his brain, he probably thinks that he's what he was 10 years ago, even though now he's older. The question will be, even if the Steelers get a lead, even if the Steelers connect on that deep ball early, can they sustain that now that he's 41 years old over the course of 4 quarters here? Because we've also seen them do that early. The other team then comes back and starts showing how good they really are because the Colts are really good. And then that just kind of wanes when you get to the 4th quarter. His arm strength isn't there as much. Maybe the offensive line doesn't protect enough. If that ends up happening and Taylor gets going on the ground, I think the Steelers have a chance if they can throw 40 times. Rodgers can get 300 and he can turn back the clock for 1 week and do it all 4 quarters. But I wouldn't be shocked either if they do it early and then the Colts come back and they just overpower them late either. This is a great Colts team that no one thought would be this good, including me, but they legit are going to walk to the division title by Thanksgiving here. We talked about the Steelers doing that weeks ago. They are going to literally do that. They can afford to lose this, not that they want to, but we'll see if the Steelers can do what you're saying all the way through the game and not just at the beginning of the game.
right.
300 is a possibility, but I'd take over 250 at plus 120. I'm just saying.
Over 250 at plus 120, win or lose, I 100% would take that.
Yeah.
And if the Steelers win this game, that's a must. That's a must. Or they're gonna get blown out if they don't put that together.
Yeah, they're gonna get gored.
I kind of agree with you, Mike. I think this could be one of those games, like you said. Mike Tomlin has these games where the heat's on him 1 week, and it's a game that he shouldn't win. He has no business winning, but they find a way to. I that's the kind of feeling I have right now.
Yeah.
I share that same sentiment.
And I have more of a feeling about this game. This might make no sense. I have more of a feeling about this game than even the Chargers game coming up. I think this is the game that he might steal when no one thinks he should win. Even the national media that wants to defend him, and we know who they are, going into this game, they're all saying the Steelers have no chance. No one's picking the Steelers, who's really serious in media. That's the game Tomlin sometimes steals. That's the game he sometimes steals.
Right.
And the recipe of the secondary being weak, it's almost like their one weakness is maybe what the Steelers can pull off in a rarity for 1 week. I don't think Rodgers can do 35 passes every week, but 1 week alone, he can probably pull off a game that doesn't require the run game and can pick apart their secondary for 1 week. But it's also becoming, I dare I say, maybe I'll segue back to you guys, this is becoming a must-win now for the Steelers. Again, the Ravens' schedule's easy. They just won. Lamar is back. He's looking better than ever. The cushion the Steelers had that I even was talking about weeks ago is fading. And even though this is a harder schedule, this is not the CFP. This is not college football. NFL doesn't care about strength of schedule. If you play tougher teams and lose and they play easier teams and win and you have a worse record and they catch up to you, you're screwed. They got to have to figure it out, whether this week or next week, with what the Ravens have in front.
Well, yeah, they lose this game, you're 4-4, and the Ravens are nipping at your heels at 3-5. You're only a game up.
Yeah, yeah, and their schedule stays easier. Their schedule's easier going forward, not just this week. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Plus, the Steelers got to go to L.A. next week, and 2 games still with the Ravens. They got Cincinnati coming here.
They split those games with Baltimore. You figure they split those probably. Yeah.
I know I'm missing one other game in there that has me concerned, but I mean, they're all concerning at this point with how bad they played. Mike Oste joining us for the Mike Drop every week. Mike, of course, managing editor of West Virginia Sports Now, part of the Pittsburgh Sports Now family of websites, national writer for Yardburger, can be heard on Sirius XM's radio as well from time to time. Mike, let's talk about Nick Herbig. I've talked about this several times today. I'm going to ask you, 29 snaps against Cincinnati. Terrell Austin comes out after the loss and says, I had to change things up. Not good against the run. Okay, fine. They come in against Green Bay. They have the lead at half, but by the end of the game, just 24 snaps on the field. He's been their best defensive player, I think, since week 3.
Yeah.
Don't you have to – I mean, okay, he's not great against the run, but your defense is getting shredded. Don't you have to find a way to get him on the field?
You would think so, and I would see an argument against, because you mentioned him not being great against the run, and especially if you're down in games, the opposing team. Certainly in this game, John, this game will be really indicative of what they really think of him, because if the Colts get a lead even by a touchdown in the fourth quarter, they are going to run Jonathan Taylor until the wheels fall off. So if you're not great against Jonathan Taylor in the run, you may not get on the field. But the Steelers' defense has been struggling so mightily. This is a time that I don't see any reason to not try something new, go off conventional wisdom, throw a younger player out there who has been performing, especially when you know your secondary also has been a weakness, and that's been picked apart by other teams. We'll see if the Colts can do that. They're going to probably try to have this be another Taylor show. He's been over 100 in most of these games. You know, any prop bet of Taylor over 100, you kill the over, especially in this game. He's had 160 plus this season. So I don't understand not doing that, especially when your defense has been struggling, unless it's an issue for this game. And the question will be, if the Steelers get gashed again on the ground and they get blown out in this game and their defense looks bad again, we all know Mike Tomlin's not going to get fired. He's going to part ways whenever he feels like it. The next scapegoat is the defensive coordinator here. So I'd imagine that if they don't win the division and they don't make the playoffs and they end up having this year be all for naught, and Tomlin does not want to go away, then Austin's going to finally be let go and they'll try something new there. I don't see it happening mid-season. The Steelers hate doing that. It was a rarity with Canada. But if this occurs again and we have a repeat of the last 2 weeks and he doesn't adjust his thinking on trying anything new or playing younger players or whatever, because the older players look like they're tired at the end of games, that's an argument for Herbig as well, then the heat's going to turn up even more. And I don't, I'm sure it's not going to matter what we think, but I wonder what Tomlin's defense there will be on just the same thing over again and the same result.
And we know Tomlin's not going anywhere, like you said, unless he wants to part ways and it's an amicable, he's not. I mean, he's signed through 2027. They're not going to pay him to not work. We know that's not how the Rooneys. They don't operate that way. We know that.
Right. Yeah.
So
especially if they still win the division. I mean, even if they're crawling through it because the Ravens had a slow start, if they win it with 10 wins and all the fans say you only got it because the Browns are a mess, Burrow's hurt, and Lamar missed 5 weeks, Rooney's not going to care. He's going to say that the division title is a division title and we're going to power through. And it might not be what you want to hear. And I've been saying for years that Tomlin's a future Hall of Famer, but I do think a voice gets stale, even if not to the players, to the fan base, which again goes to why the Eagles made their decision a decade ago. And we've seen the result for both the Eagles and Andy Reid. And there's not even bad blood there. He's going to be in their Hall of Fame when he retires, etc. This could be done in a respectful manner. The Steelers just don't want to even go flirt with that conversation. You have to wonder, we all agree they aren't going to fire Tomlin. If they would miss the playoffs this year or not win the division title based on the landscape and how much of a cushion they had to start the year, I just would wonder if there's ever a time where Rooney would sit down with Tomlin and say, we're not going to fire you. What are your thoughts? Do you maybe want to part ways? If Tomlin even has a slimmer of considering the conversation, I then would kind of push in that direction and maybe find something where he could even let him step away and make the call, let him go to TV for a year, trade him to another team and get a draft pick. You probably would get a first-round pick.
Yeah,
you would save face doing probably, and you would totally save face if you traded him. We've seen it before in the NFL. It's happened with Gruden. And who you are going to get is a whole nother story. I'm sure you're not going to get, some guy with 16 rings already. You're not going to get Belichick or even want him at this point. But Tomlin wasn't a Hall of Famer before getting hired. They're going to hire an assistant. They're going to promote a coordinator. They'll get somebody who wants the job. It's a great job to have. You just want to have someone else try it. So I would kind of move into that conversation if they would miss this year. But if they don't miss, they're probably not even going to talk about it. They're probably not even going to have the behind closed doors convo.
Yeah, you totally get at least 2 or 3 picks from somebody.
I'd imagine.
You totally go after a team like Carolina. You target Arizona. You work with him, Las Vegas. You work with Tomlin to figure out.
I don't think they're going to be done with Pete Carroll
path
1 year in, but
well, I mean, I'm just throwing out. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I get what you're saying
a
for
team
losing. 100%.
That's at the bottom that has That's
Yeah.
first of all, you got to look and see who's being gotten rid of. Right, you need your result at the end of the year. That's
You
number
need
one.
him to want to go there, though. To be fair,
Right,
the Rooney's
and that's
are not
true.
going to force him to want to go.
No.
play.
I think I've made it very clear. Like a number of people, Art's, an attorney who inherited the family business.
Sure.
He's trying to just run the franchise, whichever way he is, through Mike Tomlin. Right, and if he is frustrated, like Jerry Dulac reported on Thursday in a chat, right? If that continues to grow, and then those conversations are had, hey, where are we at? What's going to make you happy?
I would,
like if I'm Art Rooney, what's going to make you happy, Mike? Because I know what's going to make us happy, and that's winning important football games.
Sure.
Keep in mind, there's levels of frustration.
Right, I understand that.
the
I
point.
understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing you have to wonder where the level is, and I'm not questioning Dulac's reporting, but if you recall, before last season, Rooney's postseason presser was a little bit more on the frustrating side, where he even said, the standard, like Tomlin says, I'm not going to adjust it for the era, etc. Then after this past season where they lost right away in the playoffs, he then reiterated that I'm frustrated too. He brought up that they hadn't won a playoff game in 2016. He hadn't brought up that number in a while. And that he literally said, we have to have a sense of urgency to win a playoff game. They had more of a win now off season, bringing in Rodgers, bringing in Jalen Ramsey, veteran players. You don't bring them in for 5 years from now. You bring them in for now. So separate from even reporting, I think it's a fact to say that clearly he's more frustrated than he was even a year or two, certainly in the beginning of this slump. As you're mentioning, is it frustrating enough that he will fire a Hall of Fame coach? Or the other end, is it frustrating enough that if he sits down with Tomlin and says, do you want us to part ways? And Tomlin says, no, I want to be here forever. Will he push it and say, I think we should part ways? That not fire, but will he come back and say, I think it'd be best for you and me that maybe we part ways? And I will add, and here's some reporting, I know for a fact, talking with Carolina media, talking with people that I know down there, even from covering games down there, that the Carolina Panthers owner loves Mike Tomlin. I've heard from multiple media members down there that if Tomlin is ever even made seriously available, that the Carolina Panthers would move heaven and earth and would pay him anything he wants. So he would get overpaid to the point that I think he maybe would consider going. But would he want to do that? Would he want to be traded? Does he think that's a problem? Does he want to sit out a year? Whatever. I mean, I think that a new coach coming in when you have the draft in your city and maybe Rodgers retired and maybe you have a mid-first round chance at a QB and willing to trade up for it, it's a very attractive job to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers still in this era. They would get somebody legit, I'm sure.
By the way, Tepper, former minority owner here in Pittsburgh, and a stark raving lunatic. Okay. Well, I know. I'm serious. Hold on a second here. So while I'm living in South Carolina, right, I had some people helping to build that new. They were building a new facility, about $300 million job. Right. I had some iron workers up there. Right. And so $300 million job in Rock Hill. Right. It's been completely shut down for 2.5 years. Not only that, do you remember he was drinking at a game and threw a
He threw the drink on the fans.
Yeah. And you're going to love this. I think this was 2023. He was driving by some bar, whether it was in North Carolina or South Carolina. He was driving by some bar, and the bar owner had a sign that said something derogatory about Tepper, and he freaking stopped in the bar to pick a fight with the guy who put the sign up.
Well,
he's crazy.
Would Tomlin want to work for that guy?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like that's part of that problem. Although I'm sure Tepper would love to have him, but the guy's a wild card.
Well, and he has his hand in that organization. I think a little bit too much.
Right.
He's a classic example of a successful business owner who has a ton of money that thinks that they know football and that
We've seen it a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't know. And when you're painting that picture, that sounds like the exact opposite of what Tomlin would want to deal with. He's not had that with the Steelers for a long time. I mean, even whether it's Art, Dan, or whoever, we can argue football acumen, but they never tried to really meddle to the point that it's like annoyance or could be a detriment to the franchise, even going back before all through the Rooney family lineage. Maybe they would have more of a football acumen in the past, but there wasn't a, we're going to fight a fan. We're going to tell you what to do. Like, that's something that Tomlin, I'm sure, would be scared of, or he would need to have something in his contract to avoid that. I don't know if Carolina's the right team. Maybe you let him pick his spots out of a basket of teams that maybe are going to have a coaching spot available. Maybe a team that wouldn't have a coaching spot available would consider it if they know that Tomlin's free, because I don't think he would lose going elsewhere. I think maybe he'd have a chance at a career resurgence. It might be good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Jerry D on? Is he in the backstage?
Yes.
I would love to sit here and continue to talk with you, young man.
I know, man.
But
no problem.
Jerry DePaul is standing by. Mike Ostie, you're the best. I love having you on the show. You bring a great perspective, and it's just fun to talk with you.
Absolutely, man. Likewise, tell Jerry D I said hi, and happy to be on, and I guess we'll do this again next week.
We will. Thanks, Mike. Managing editor of West Virginia Sports Now, part of the Pittsburgh Sports Now family of websites. Of course, national writer for Yardbarker, heard on Sirius XM. We now bring in the one, the only, the man, the myth, the Lopes fan. Is that the hat? You got the Lopes hat on?
Undefeated.
Jerry DePaula, ladies and gentlemen. Jerry, how are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, John?
I'm cautiously optimistic that the parlay I have put together on FanDuel is going to yield me about $7,000 in a couple hours. And if it does, it'll be Bill Aiken's show. I'll be somewhere. No, I'm just kidding. I'd actually be tooting my own horn to you. And, of course, on the post-game show, not only is Jerry so kind to join us on pregame, but he's on our post-game show as well with the great John Fedko. It's must-see TV. I'm telling you right now, he's just
I deserve combat pay.
You're going to have to talk to HR about that. I don't control.
I'll do that.
I don't pull the purse strings. That's a lie. I pull the purse strings.
John, I enjoyed Mike and your conversation about the Tepper. But I can say with certainty that Dan Rooney has never stopped in a bar to pick a fight.
I'm telling you, you can look it up. I remember reading about that. This is while I was still living down in Charleston area, and that's the largest out of market city for Carolina. So the Panthers were hot down there, at least in terms of NFL. They were, the Falcons had a good coverage area down there as well. But Carolina, Charleston was designated a Carolina Panthers city. So, but anyhow, I'll never forget reading about that. Literally drove by a bar, saw a sign criticizing him, and he stopped in the place to pick a fight with somebody. That's just nuts.
After working for the most stable owners in sports, the Rooneys, he doesn't want to go work for that lunatic in Carolina. First of all, they're not going to do anything with Mike Tomlin unless things really go bad this year.
Right.
And they end up something like 6-11.
Right. Well, yeah, that's right. If they go, 7-10, 6-11, if they just really completely fall apart, lose 5, 6, 7 games in a row here, which I'm not saying they will, but if you look at their schedule, it's not an easy, as I'm looking at the Steelers right now, I'm trying to pull the schedule up here real quick just to take a peek at it. Of course, they're in Los Angeles next Sunday. Be a bit of a home game for them at SoFi for sure, as they have done very well. They're a great traveling team. Of course, Steeler Nation loves to show up. But then after the Chargers game, they got to come back and play Cincinnati. Well, they've already proven that that was a loss at Chicago. Road games. Then they got Buffalo here and Baltimore on the road. They get a bit of a break with Miami. Then it's Detroit at Cleveland and finish up with Baltimore. I mean, I look at this schedule and I see 3 wins, maybe 4, maybe, and that puts them at 8-9.
I think that the Cincinnati game being here, and Flacco is hurt. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, he's not going to play. I don't think Joe will be back for the remainder of the year, maybe late December.
Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin, all those veterans on defense, aren't stupid. They've been playing poorly the last couple of weeks, incredibly poorly, something that the fans don't expect or deserve. But you know what? I think they're going to turn things around starting today. I'm one of those people that thinks that this is a game that the Steelers could win. I know you guys talked about it. I think there's a good chance they can turn things around because they've been so bad the last couple of weeks, and the Colts have been so good that in the NFL, things don't make any sense. Colts are 7-1. Everybody thinks they're the greatest team in the league, and they might be. Although I don't think they are, but they might be. But eventually, they hit a wall for a game or two, and you bring them out of the dome. They're going to be. Now it's a nice day in Pittsburgh today, so there really is the weather is not a factor. But
Right.
nonetheless, I think they're at home. I think the defense cannot play that poorly 3 weeks in a row with all those veterans. And yeah, they have lost a couple steps, that's for sure. But we'll give Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin the benefit of the doubt. They can make up for those lost steps with better scheme. And maybe Nick Herbig plays a little bit more today to get a better pass rush. And Jonathan Taylor's been great. But again, nobody can be great for 17 weeks in a row. And I think eventually, even Daniel Jones, when he played for the Giants, I was one of the few people that thought Daniel Jones was a good quarterback who threw the ball well. He threw the ball well at Duke. He threw the ball well for the Giants. Trouble is, he didn't have any kind of a supporting cast. In Indianapolis, he does with Tyler Warren and Josh Downs and Michael Pittman and Taylor. That's why they've been winning. But today, I think is a little bit of a different animal. The Steelers have a chance to at least, John, and you'll appreciate this, at least cover the 3.5 points.
Well, I'm not playing them. I can tell you that right now. I'm not putting my money
You're
on
wearing
this
the
team
shirt.
again.
You're wearing the shirt. How can you not play them?
This is a Steelers show. We'll say that. Fair enough. Okay. Well, hey, look, it's not a bad play, I don't think. I don't know.
I wouldn't play either. I can play it for you with no money on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've just not been good, and I've tried to make this like a rule for decades now, where I just don't bet on them, whether it's on them or against them, because when I bet on them, they can't cover, and when I bet against them, they win and cover. It's just, it's a sickness that I have. I am playing some props today. I am playing over 250 yards for Aaron Rodgers. I am playing him to throw 3 touchdown passes this week. Yeah, I think. Well,
very optimistic.
Look,
they do that to win, John.
Well, but I mean, their only path to victory is to throw the football, Jerry. It just is.
You know what? I think this is a Warren and Gainwell kind of game. I think they got to possess the football and keep it away from those weapons on the other side of the ball. They have to run the ball.
Well, Colts bring in the 9th best rushing defense in the league. Their pass defense is 29th. And Jerry, they ran the ball 18 times last week, 15 in the first half, had a 9-point lead. They ran the ball 3 times in the second half.
I don't understand that at all. Todd Haley would never do that.
No, of course he wouldn't. That's another reason why I love having him on, and you as well. I mean, just the depth of knowledge and the insight is invaluable. Jerry, we'll keep you on for a couple more minutes, and then we'll have you on the post-game show. We talked a little bit about Nick Herbig, and trying to get him some more playing time. The secondary, no Jabril Peppers. They've got some other players that are out. Joey Porter Jr. has not. A little bit of a regression maybe with him. Daniel Jones. I mean, I think Taylor runs for 100 yards today, but Daniel Jones has just been dynamic. And last week we saw quick release from Jordan Love, out in 2.5 seconds or less, 20 straight completions. And on third down, he was just lethal, surgical against the defense. Could be another story again this week with Jones possibly.
Well, you know what? They really haven't put any pressure on the quarterback the last couple of weeks, and it's about time that Hayward and T.J. Watt start earning those big bucks. And even if they do, even the quarterback does get rid of the ball quickly, you cover somebody. If you cover somebody, he's not going to throw it. And if they get things fixed in the secondary and make sure that Josh Downs and Warren aren't wide open like the last 2 weeks, the receivers have been wide open, then again you get a chance to get a sack. And you get a chance to put some pressure on the quarterback. Maybe he'll throw a pick. Maybe he'll throw an incomplete pass on third down. And then all of a sudden, the Steelers get an upper hand that way. So you got to cover in a secondary. It works hand in hand. Secondary works hand in hand with the pass rush. If one's not working, the other one's not going to work either. That's been the problem so far this
yeah,
year.
It has for sure. I still think Rodgers has to throw the ball 30, 35 times today for them to have a chance.
They lose 35, John. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I don't – even if they're not, I think, look, to think that this defense is going to be able to slow down Indianapolis, either running or throwing the ball, or both for that matter, I think is short-sighted. I mean, as much as we want to root for them and to do well, right, I mean, there's no reason to think that the Colts are going to slow down.
Sometimes in the NFL, what you think is going to happen, the opposite happens. And just because they're 7-1 and Jonathan Taylor is the greatest running back since Gil Sayers, it doesn't mean he's going to keep doing that week after week after week, especially when you bring him out on the road. And maybe these guys get it going. The defense gets it going. All those veterans, all that knowledge, you think eventually they're going to cover somebody and make some plays.
You know, it's funny that you would mention that now in terms of his road production. So now here's what I want to do. I want to go and look at his splits from when he's been on the road versus when he's been at home. That's something that is actually a very good point that you would bring up when you're looking at something like this. So I'm looking at his splits for like the last, let's see all of those. We're going to see recent games and see all. So I'm looking at Taylor's numbers here as we break things down. On the road at Tennessee, 102 yards on the ground. At the Rams, 76. At LA, 94, averaging 5.9 in reverse order, 4.5 and 6 yards on the road. So, I mean, and, look at Tennessee, the Rams, decent team, Chargers, decent team. Production on the road, not as strong as he has been at home, where he's run for 165. He's run for 123, and then last week 153 against Tennessee. So not great competition nonetheless. But these defenses mirror what they've got to be similar at the bottom of the league where the Steelers are. So when I look at those sorts of things, I take that into consideration. I still think he's going to have a pretty big afternoon. One more question from Jerry DePaula, and then we'll get out of here in a few minutes. This is Steel City Sunday, live from the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. Jerry, your thoughts on the game today and who you think is going to win and why?
Well, I kind of think the Steelers are going to make it close. I like I said, with the 3.5 points. I think there's a good chance they win this game on a Chris Boswell 55-yard field goal at the gun, 23-20.
23-20, says Jerry DePaula. We'll see you on postgame. And listen, I got a stun gun for you. If Johnny starts to get out of the way, Mr. Fedko, give him a little zap.
You got to get him on site. Get him in the North Park Lounge and get some drinks in him. You can really get him going, right?
That's definitely something he will not be doing is drinking.
That's right.
Maybe some water, maybe some sort of beverage of Coke or Diet Coke.
I have
Jerry
a lot of respect
D.
for John.
Yeah, absolutely. We all do. That's why we love him so much. Jerry D., I have respect for you, sir. Thank you, as always, for coming on board.
All right, John. Talk to you after the game.
Okay, Jerry DePaula, longtime writer for the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. This is Steel City Sunday, live from the North Park Lounge, Richland, Hilltop Event Center. Moments away from wrapping up here at the building here. By the way, if you're a business owner, you're watching us right now, and you're not sure where you should have a holiday party, you should check out this place. 16,000 square feet. These folks really do a great job. Their food here is fantastic. They have great specials, but they have a great catering and event center here that can take care of your holiday needs, big and small. Go check them out, North Park Lounge. Great people. And, of course, we are brought to you by Arch Masonry and Restoration. The good folks at Arch Masonry and Restoration been around a long time. I've been working with them for over a decade. If you're a concrete finisher, if you're a bricklayer or a block layer, and you are slowing down, Arch is heating up. Even though it's November, they are looking to hire professionals. Please check out their website, archmasonryinc.com. No experience, no problem. You can learn on the job. Advancement programs can get your career jump-started in the building trades. Call Arch 412-564-5733. Final few seconds with Bill Akins here as we start to get things wrapped up and you get ready to watch Steelers and Colts live from Acrisure. Any thoughts from you, Billy, before we wrap up?
Well, I don't know. I kind of got a good feeling about this game. Like we said before, this could be one of those Tomlin games where, he has no business winning, but they somehow find a way to get the job done. It's happened before. I just kind of got a feeling that they're either going to win or they're going to keep it really close. And I like what Jerry said, like a Boswell 55-yarder to win it. That'd be great. I mean, you've relied on him so much this year. But, yeah, I think, like I said before, they need to score often and quickly. And in order to keep up with this high-powered offense of the Colts.
I think this is a 38-30 game today. I think Indianapolis wins this game. I think you're going to see Jonathan Taylor run for 100 yards. I think Danny Dimes will put 250 on the board. I think Aaron Rodgers will throw at least 250 and 3 touchdowns. I don't see the Steelers running the ball a whole lot again today. They really haven't shown it. I mean, outside of playing Cincinnati, they have not been able to run the ball really effectively much at all this year. I can't see that happening against a top 10 rush defense. I really don't.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Total offense of the Colts, over, under 400?
Over.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think if this is a high-scoring game, I think they're going to just put up yardage, and I just think that they're just going to overwhelm this defense. It's just, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be, which is good for you if you're betting the Steelers because I suck at picking them. It's just terrible. It's just awful. The over in this game and team totals over. I'll have a parlay out here very shortly. I risk $10. I don't really care. It's a lotto for me, but it is what it is. I still think the best play of the day is, and I agree with the degenerate. I think Vikings plus 9.5. They stay in that game. Should be a wild contest in Detroit today. We'll see how that all plays out. Okay. We want to thank you for sticking around. Post-game show immediately following Steelers and Colts here live, North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center, on X, on YouTube, and on Facebook, our Facebook page, now broadcasting live. Excited for that. Go check us out on all the social media sites at Steel City Sunday. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, and TikTok. We post daily on all their content on all of those channels at Steel City Sunday. For the entire cast and crew, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. John Fedko and Jerry DePaula join me in the postgame show immediately following Colts at Steelers. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you after today's game. Let's go Steelers.